All right, what is happening? Happy Wednesday,
How
March
you guys
the
doing?
9th,
Howdy.
2022. Halenville live on Wednesday night. John Conklin, Charles Green. Hope everyone's doing good. John, how you doing, dude?
Trying to maintain, Tony. Trying to maintain.
Right on.
How you guys doing?
All
Very
right,
cool, man.
doing
Good.
good here. Yeah,
Got a big show here tonight.
yeah, we do.
Exciting show. Exciting show,
Yeah.
guys.
Yes, we do.
I got
Got
some people in the chat.
double whammy, a
Good to
double
see you,
whammy tonight,
We got
man.
so to speak.
guests tonight. We do. Um, Very exciting. Yes, we do. We have two guests. We are gonna bring them in shortly. We want to welcome everybody. We're gonna do trivia later, so hang out and we'll have some fun doing some Van Halen trivia for a
Nice.
fair warning
Nice.
pass.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chris Hunter, aloha from New Zealand. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, Chris?
Hey, Ed. We got
Ed, what's up, bro?
Paulie Walnuts. Tim
Paulie.
Thomas.
Good to see you, man.
Paulie, Tim. We have Thomas Santiago.
Hey, Thomas. Tim, what's up, Timmy?
Dwight Bailey.
Hitman. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah. And
Eric
Christopher Live
Salinas.
Sala. Hey, Chris.
Christopher, what's up, buddy?
And who else we got in there?
Janice Lala.
Janice.
Hey, Janice. It's good to see
Tim
you, Janice.
Thomas.
Jimmy Ray Hawkins.
Jimmy Ray. Good man, bro.
Keith Campbell.
Keith, it's good to see you, bro.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Keith.
Who else?
And if you're just getting here, say hi in the chat. Nice to see you.
Holly.
Holly Lewis.
Hey, Holly.
Hey, Holly.
Good to
How
see
are
you,
you,
ma'am.
sweetheart?
Dan of New Jersey. What's up,
Dan.
Dan?
What's going on, bro?
Eric Salinas. What's up, Eric?
Hey, Eric. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, welcome.
Who else?
All righty. So, first of all, the March 9th is the date on the calendar, and today marks the first day of the 9-day journey that the Van Halens.
It was actually Tony. It was actually the day they arrived in New York City. Remember we had Michael on about his book.
Yeah.
Yeah, he corrected everybody.
So this is the day they arrived.
They arrived in New York today, this year, 60 years ago today.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I guess they took a train across country for the rest of the way.
I was going to ask that. How they get on the West Coast after New York.
Yeah. There's the boat pick, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those great immigration stories, right?
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Absolutely.
60 years.
Wonderful story. 60 years ago today. So this is the day that they arrived.
Yeah.
Okay.
They arrived. I think it was a 9-day boat trip or something. Somebody said.
I saw on Facebook someone posted the actual boarding.
Yeah, I saw that.
Or boarding pass for the whole family. You saw that, right?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
It looks 60 years old. You really got to kind of squint to see all the print and everything and see just who they're talking about. The sign names, anyway.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Man.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring in our guest.
Yeah.
So
big time.
We're going to let somebody else, we're going to let another friend of ours introduce our guest, but we're going to introduce this guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he is.
Simon Hosford right
Yeah,
there.
baby. Good to see you, Simon.
Good to see you guys too. Hey,
Simon.
Tony. Hey, Charles. Hey, John. Hey, everybody in the chat. Good to be here.
Great to have you.
Hoss, what's up, dude?
Not much. Keeping busy. I'm doing some recording in the studio this afternoon. Chris Hunter in New Zealand would know it's afternoon down here, not like evening for you guys. And so yeah, I'm just doing a recording session for someone and a few bits and pieces. But yeah, keeping out of trouble. You know.
Things
Yeah.
things are getting back to normal.
Things are slowly getting back to normal down here in Australia land. Yeah, it's you know, it's a bit slow, but it looks like it's not going to go backwards again now.
It's happening, right? It's happening.
It looks like it's happening for real. And I'm sure from what I'm hearing, it's the same for you guys as well, which is and the UK, like pretty much everywhere in the world. I'm hearing that it's there's a real feeling that it's not going to go backwards again this time. I think we're hopefully done with all of that, and you know, I'm sure it'll take 3 to 6 months for the entertainment industry machine for the cogs to get going again. But at least it's movement in the right direction. So yeah, things down here are getting better, which is good.
That's good news, man.
Good. Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be a good year because I think people are so, you know, excited to see live music again. And I think bands are going to do well this summer, you know.
Yeah.
The summer coming up here in the States.
Yeah, you know, you're right, John. And I think obviously while you guys have your summer, we'll go into our winter, which normally would be a pretty quiet period for touring and stuff. But I don't think it's going to be. I think down here, the winter is going to be just as busy because people have been so starved of actually living their lives, you know?
Right.
So
are you guys entering your cool weather, autumn weather there, Simon?
Slowly, yeah. The weather's still pretty good. I would say, you know, it still feels summery enough. We're not getting depressed about it yet. But yeah, we had a pretty good summer actually. Last year we didn't at all. It hardly got hot, but this year was good. And you know, it'd be nice if we were coming into spring and summer now that COVID has kind of wound down, because then that would add to people's positivity and stuff, you know. But the weather's still pretty good, especially, you know, I mean, I'm down. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm down in Melbourne on the south coast, you know, so it's a little cooler. But up in Queensland, it's positively gorgeous, which is where I'm going tomorrow for a couple of days, which will be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good to catch up with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Simon, dude, it's always good to see you. And
yes.
Yeah, give our best to Andrew and Brad, and I love the Brad Cook shirt, dude.
Oh yeah, of course.
Very cool.
Right on.
Got to represent, you know.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
awesome. Nice.
It's actually a really great logo. I really like it. You know,
it is very cool.
It almost looks like if I drew a little head on here and a tail, it looked like the Pontiac Firebird. You know.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
A little bit, but I like it. It's cool. He did a great design. So,
nice.
Yeah. This one's a little bit tight for me because I've got some COVID kilos on, as they say. But you know, wearing his tight t-shirt makes me just more inspired to lose the pounds, as you guys say. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
nice,
cool.
dude.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So. Hoss, you have a friend who, tell us about your friend.
This is a friend that I'm imagining that is going to be the one that you're going to bring into the chat, right? The special guest, VIP,
yeah.
Right. This is a gentleman that I met back. We had to figure it out again. Actually, it's been so long. We figured out it's been 23 years. When we first met, and I was touring with Men at Work at the time, and we just finished up a tour of the States and I think Canada on this particular run as well. But anyway, Colin Hay to this day lives in Los Angeles, so we finished up there, and then I just stayed in LA for a while to just kind of hang out and catch up with some friends. And I had the use of a house in Canoga Park, so I sort of holed up there for a couple of weeks. And as you do, I was just scouring the LA Weekly paper and looking for what gigs were around. And I saw a gig for, I don't know if this will give it away, but that's all right. I saw a gig for a band called the Atomic Punks. And I thought, well, that's got to be a Van Halen tribute band or something, right? So I jumped in the car that night and took myself down to the gig. And I can't remember what sort of area it was in. I just know it was far away. It was like at least an hour's drive, maybe 90 minutes from
Orange County somewhere, probably.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Orange County. I wish I could remember, but anyway, and it was cool. It was in a club, you know, and it was nice and intimate. And of course, anyone that's seen the Atomic Punks know they just absolutely rocked it and took the house down. And I met the guitarist, and he was a super, super, super sweet guy and a great player. And we just stayed in touch. And then while I was there in LA, he invited me around to his house, and we did some jamming. And if I recall correctly, he might remember this better than me. I think maybe the following week, he took me somewhere and we did some wine tasting, but he'll remember that better than me. Anyway, without further ado, then I will introduce a great guitarist, an awesome human being, and someone I'm lucky and fortunate to still call a friend all these years later, even though we're across the, across the Pacific. But ladies and gentlemen, Brian Young from the David Lee Roth Band.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to HALENVILLE, bro.
Very, very nice of you. Very nice intro.
Brian.
Yeah. Hey, now you just mentioned another piece of the puzzle. You were staying in Canoga Park, and
Yeah.
I was living in Woodland Hills, so we were really close to each other. That was probably why it's so easy for you to come by my house.
Yeah.
There's probably 5 miles or less.
Yeah, I remember it wasn't very far actually, and so yeah, we caught up and
did I take you to Ventura to go wine tasting?
That sounds right.
Because was it a little wine bar that had like a little trio playing? I don't know. I mean, I had a friend who played in a wine bar in Ventura.
Yeah, I can't remember if there was a trio playing, but we both discovered pretty quickly that we also like wine. And you said, "Oh, dude, next week we're going wine tasting if you're still in LA." And so that's what we did.
Right.
I can remember that we went wine tasting, but I can't recall much of the tasting itself. So it must have been a good day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can remember it, you weren't there, right?
Welcome, Brian. Dude, it's nice to have you, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Brian, where are you? Texas?
I'm in Austin, Texas right now.
Austin, Texas.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Brian, being in Texas, do you still surf?
I haven't been. The last trip I took was to Nicaragua. It's been about 4 or 5 years, but there was a surf park out here for a while. It was really nice. You could actually go play, surf man-made waves. But waves was like 25-minute drive for me, so I was loving it. I was going like twice a week.
Was it like one of those Kelly Slater places? Like
no, it was built by a guy who's a Coors guy. Last name's Coors. He's part of the Coors family. He had money. He was a surfer, so he put the money into this place and built it. And it was open for about 3 or 4 years, and then it got sold to. I was at a hotel a couple of years ago when it was actually last year when we had that freeze here in Texas, and we lost our power. We went and stayed at a hotel, and we ended up meeting these guys who were part of the Kelly Slater organization, who were out looking at it to buy it. So and it's still been closed for 2 years. So I don't know. So I haven't done any surfing for a while, but I have to.
Oh man, I know that's got to be killing you. When I heard you were, because you're a surfer, dude.
Yeah,
you are.
It sucks.
Now,
I love everything about Austin.
What was your favorite surf spot when you were in LA?
I don't know about my favorite, but the place I went the most was County Line because it was an easy drive for me. It was beach break. It was a fun place.
From Woodland, you were in Woodland Hills by that
time.
Yeah,
just over the hill. And
okay.
It was not too. It was also because of it's a big long beach break. It wasn't like everyone fights for a peak. So Malibu is always everyone at the peak. But I'd go to the different. But once in a while I drive to Huntington Beach. But Woodland going through LA is always a drag.
Sure.
Yeah. So and then sometimes I go to Ventura. The point at Ventura or above Ventura. The Gold Coast area. What do they call it? And Emma's what's it called? Emma Long Park.
Emma Long Park.
And then what was the place? What's the greatest place up there in Santa Barbara? Come on.
The Trestles? Isn't that what's Trestles?
Santa Barbara. You're going south now. What's that place in Santa Barbara? I can't believe I'm forgetting the name.
It starts with a D.
No. Oh well, it'll pop up in my head.
No, it'll come to me.
Yeah,
I'm not thinking about it now until I remember.
Yeah, there's. Oh, it's on. It's on one of those songs. It's on one of those Beach Boys songs. You know. Anyway,
It certainly is.
Yeah. No, there's so many places. I mean, I probably surfed 100 different places in LA, all the way
That's
down to
so cool.
There's, in fact, here's a surf story that has to do with music and guitar. So I used to play every Thursday at a club in San Diego called The Bitter End. It was on the corner of 5th and F Street in the Gaslamp district, across the street from a bar called Croce's, from Jim Croce.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a surf spot down in San Diego called Black's Beach.
Black's Beach, yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to surf that place. So one day I decided to drive down early to San Diego. So I had my gear in my car, my guitar, my amp, and my surfboard and all my stuff. And so I drove to San Diego and went to Black's Beach. And I usually would take my key and stash it in my car, with a little hide up key. But
sure.
I was just I didn't know this place. And so I wrapped it up in plastic and I put it in my wetsuit.
Okay.
And so I surfed for a couple hours. And then I'm heading back.
What were you wearing? A full suit? Was it cold wintertime?
Yeah,
full suit. You. Okay, you just tucked it down. I got you.
No, I stuck it in I had a little pouch in the back, a key pouch.
Okay.
So I'm just in the pouch of the suit, all wrapped in plastic. And so when I came out, I'm going back to my car, pull the key out, hit the button, and it's not working. It got wet. It was the battery key for my alarm. So I'm sitting out there in a wetsuit with my guitar and my amp locked in my car, and I got a couple hours. It's still light out, and I'm just going, oh man, what am I going to do? And so I had to call my wife in LA, which was a 2-hour drive, 2.5 hours. Yeah. And I said, I'm stuck. I can't get in the car. You got to bring my spare key. And so I was out there. By the time she showed up, it was nighttime, and I was out there the whole time in a wetsuit, standing there with my surfboard by my car. And so I made it to the gig though. So that's dude, it's a little sand coming out of my ears.
That's awesome. That's
awesome. That's one of those bummer, like when you're like, right when it doesn't work, you're like, oh man, I'm screwed right now.
You were the perfect guy to actually be in a David Lee Roth's band. I swear to God, you have the vibe. You scream LA. You really do. You're just, dude.
Yeah, we had
Very
fun.
Cool.
Even when I joined the band, Ray Luzier and James Lomenzo were the rhythm section at the time, and they had been with them for a few years. Within a couple months, I became the guy that whenever they wanted to say something to Dave, they would tell me to say it. They'd go, Brian, hey, why don't you ask Dave this? Why don't you ask Dave that? They just go like, for some reason, Brian can talk to Dave. Everyone's a little nervous about, so there's a strange thing about approaching him with different kinds of whatever, if you have an idea or a suggestion. And so it wasn't very long before I was kind of like the guy that got, tasked with that, I still remember one time I went up to Dave to say something to him about a key change we were doing in this one song that was not working. And I walk up to Dave and I'm like, Dave, and he goes, you look like a guy that's going to tell me something I don't want to hear. And I just walked away.
Well, hey, Brian, I'm gonna give you a little shout out. Somebody may not have pointed this out, and if I'm the first guy, I just want to pat myself on the back and give Haas all the credit. Okay, there's a handful of guys who came after Steve Vai. Approximately 7 guys that are on my immediate radar. There's only one guy in the history of David Lee Roth's band, period, who lasted longer than Steve Vai and lasted longer by far than any single other individual.
Yeah, that's true.
I started with Jason Becker.
Yeah, I played with him for almost 7 years.
Wow. Yeah, and Steve Vai is the only other guy.
I think
you actually have. You ought to be in like a rock record book. Well, you shared the stage with David Lee Roth longer than any other single individual other than Edward Van Halen.
That's right.
Steve Vai possibly. It's like a tie, and that is ironic to me. I find that amazing. because nobody else stood that long, bro. There's guys who didn't make it a year.
I don't know
The
what all
average
the
is a
stories
year and
were.
like 3 months.
Yeah. I think that and here's an interesting little factoid that most people don't know is that I was still David Lee Roth's guitar player while they were touring as Van Halen, the first reunion tour. They started the tour September of 07.
Mm-hmm.
Dave had me on salary till the middle of 08 as his guitar player.
Wow.
Because he wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I was still literally on salary and for 8 or 9 months after my last, well, actually, really, we didn't play that much in 07. But from September, I was still on retainer until about June of 08. Wow. So it was kind of, I was going to
ask you how that bridged. Yeah.
And then when it finally ended, I was like, I got a phone call from one of the managers or something. Hey, Brian, just want to let you know, Dave's taking you off retainer. I'm like, yeah, okay, no worries, man. I wasn't expecting to be paid to do nothing for that long.
Wow.
But
did Dave? Did you know that he was and they were reforming Van Halen?
Oh yeah, I knew that. I knew that way back. We in fact, there's a few things that I knew, of course, before most people because of being in the inner circle. The first thing, I'll go back a little farther, was when I found out that he was going to take over the Howard Stern show. Like I knew that almost a year before it happened.
Right.
Dave just said, "Don't tell anybody. This is what's going to happen. I'm taking over the Howard Stern show." And at the time, I didn't know I was going to be part of it. In fact, I really wasn't going to be part of it till about 2 weeks before it happened. Matt Sensio, Dave's manager, called me up and said, "Hey, Brian, Dave's starting the show on I can't remember the exact date. It was like January 3rd. It was like maybe the 2nd or 3rd. I can look at the calendar of 2006. I flew out there on New Year's Day, and then I think we started 2 days later after I got there, and I said, well, what am I doing? And he said, well, Dave wants you to bring a guitar and just be there to play on the radio. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't really know what that meant, Oh. So it's like New Year's Eve and I'm at home, and it's one of my only New Year's in the past 25 years that I didn't have a New Year's Eve gig because I was going to fly to New York City the next day. And so it's New Year's Eve. It's around 8:00 LA time. I know Dave's in New York, so it's like 11 out in New York. And I'm trying to get a hold of Matt Sensio or anyone to tell me, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be bringing? And I'm leaving in 12 hours. And finally, I had Dave's phone number, but it was like the bat phone. I never called him. Yeah. I always would call the management and say, Dave, so I finally just go, well, I got to call Dave. So I called him up and he answered the phone. And I say, hey, Dave, sorry to bother you. He goes, oh, no worries. I said, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, what am I bringing tomorrow? He said, well, we're going to have you play over. We got all these loops we made of music where it's just like loops over and over, like a backing track. And we're going to have you just riff out over it and stuff in between coming and going from commercials. And so I said, well, so should I bring an electric, an acoustic? He goes, just bring both. So I just brought my pod pedal board, an electric guitar, and my Taylor acoustic, and flew out to New York. And allegedly it was like, okay, so for the first week of the radio show, we're going to have you playing some guitar. Great. So I fly out there the next day, and I think we had Monday off, and the show started on a Tuesday. The first thing was a 4-day shut week. And I played on the show, and he would just pop. It was really great because he would just pop in. He had spent this time taking all these funk and blues and reggae, all these songs he loved, hundreds of them, and had his guy at the studio take a part of the song that he loved and just loop it for 10 minutes. And then and they were just his greatest hits. So he had about 200 CDs with about 4 or 5 backing tracks on each one. And he would just pop them in on the radio during the commercial. We'd be at commercial and everyone's, doing their thing while the commercials are playing. And they would pull out a CD, give it to Hutch, the engineer, and he'd pop it in the player, and then he'd push play, and we'd come out, and I wouldn't even know what it was, what key it was in, or anything. And they would just start playing music, and they're like, "Okay, we're back," and I'd have to start playing.
And you'd have to just improvise, just off the cuff,
start soloing out, you know. And then, in fact, the first few times I was kind of doing some ripping stuff, and Dave said, "Hey, hold, blues it out a little." Like he didn't like it too flashy. He wanted it to be more cruising and all. So I was just doing whatever he told me to do. But the fun part was the fact that I was live on the radio and I didn't know what key I was going to be in. So the song would come on, then I'd have to.
you know, Brian, when you guys were, I think you were in Japan in 94?
Not me. I was in Japan.
No. I'm so sorry.
2004.
2004, Japan. I'm so sorry. Dave comes to the edge of the stage and drops his mic. You remember that?
No.
Well, the band literally didn't skip a beat. You guys were so tight. He's stumbling, fumbling like he does from time to time.
Do you remember what city that was in? There's a few videos.
Osaka. It was in Osaka, yeah. Japan. The song was Jamie's Crying, I believe it was.
Is there a tape of this or something?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
And he drops the mic and he fumbles it and he looks at the crowd real quick and the crowd grabs it and kind of tosses it back to him.
I wonder if
the band, dude, you didn't skip a beat.
Hey, I wonder if the whole show is on YouTube because we got yelled at that night. The band did. We all got yelled at by Dave.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was jet lagged, of course. I mean, we all were pretty much. We showed up. We left LA at noon on like a Friday or whatever day it was. But when we landed in Japan, it was like 6 o'clock Saturday night after the time change in the 10-hour flight. So we had been up since 6 in the morning. Obviously, LA flights to Japan. You've got a noon flight. You're up at 6. You're at the airport at 9. You're on the plane at 12. And by the time we landed, it's 10 o'clock our time. Then by the time we get out, it's like midnight our time. Yet it's 6 o'clock. So now it's time to start partying. So we just got to Japan. It's like it's 6 o'clock. We got a night off. We're going out, and we were out all night the first night. So
had you ever been to Japan before?
That was my first. That was the only time I've been to Japan.
Wow. Okay.
And so in fact, Ray Luzier, he was up till the sun came up. I was up till around 4, and so I mean we were just. Like I said, we had been up for however long it is. I don't even know. 24 hours, and the time change, and they're up drinking, and going to sushi and all that, whatever. And so I know that Ray was. I remember him saying that he didn't get back to the hotel till it was light out. And so, and then when we played the show, now Dave hadn't been out partying with us that so he wasn't like as bad as we were, but we were all pretty burnt out. So during the show, I think it's during the ice cream man, when he's doing the acoustic. So we're back there we're all behind the drum. Oh, I forgot. During the show, we could tell Dave was kind of tired, and he had looked at Ray a few times and said, slow down on some of the songs. And it was kind of weird because we were playing them. They were getting slower and slower. We're like, oh man, this David thinks this is fast. It's slow. So he's kind of burnt out. And we could feel, in fact, David told us he was going to all take us out to sushi after the show. Well, during the show, it was going so weird that Moby, my guitar tech, held up a big sign and said, "Does this mean we're not going to sushi?"
It's funny you say that, Brian, because during the video, I watched the whole concert. Is on YouTube. He's making gestures. He's looking over his shoulder at you. He's looking over his shoulder.
I know the secret codes for all these things you're seeing. Wow. I could watch old Van Halen. I'll watch old Van Halen videos, and I'll tell you what Dave's thinking at certain points. I'll go, oh, this is where he's pissed off at Eddie right now.
Wow.
I know the whole. I know all the
yeah.
So anyway,
but hey, I got to tell you, you guys. He drops the microphone. He's fumbling. You guys not only didn't skip a beat, you maintained the time of the song, and you just kept repeating.
Oh, we kept repeating. Let it go.
1 or 2 bars. You just kept repeating over and over until he got it together, and then you guys just boom like that. It's brilliant, bro. It's absolutely brilliant because it was almost. Yeah, I mean, any other band could have had a train wreck moment.
You still got yelled at.
You guys were smooth as could be, which means that Dave could be as rough as he needed to be and be Dave.
Yeah, we were pretty well rehearsed and well trained. We kind of, like I said, we knew, how it is. We played with someone for a long time. We used to do all we had already been. Me and Ray and James had been together for years at that point. But so during the acoustic part of Ice Cream Man, we're back. We all kind of huddle behind the drum set, me, Ray, and James, and Toshi, I guess, too, at the time. And we were going, oh, man, fuck, Dave's pissed off. It's not good. And Dave's out there strumming the intro, just talking, you know. And we're back there whispering and going, oh, I think we're in trouble. And all of a sudden we just hear, shut up! We're like, no! We all go running. Dave actually just yelled on the microphone, shut up!
Excellent.
He's hearing us back there.
Oh, no.
Oh,
We just
wow.
knew.
And
We just knew we were in trouble, and we did. We got to talking to you after the show. We all I can't remember what Dave said, but it was pretty bad. We got yelled at.
you know, Brian, I got to give you another small shout out. You are one of a very small handful of guitar players who has not only shared the stage with Dave, but has been able to perform over and over the catalog from the Roth era Van Halen and Roth era.
Well, I can tell you my
Dave.
secret. My secret to that was being in the Atomic Punks for 3 years.
Right. So,
Because
How'd you get that gig, Brian? How'd you get the Atomic Punks gig?
okay, back to that gig I was doing in San Diego. I was the singer on that gig was Ralph from the Punks. You know, from who's now
Right.
Michael Starr from.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Right.
we were doing the disco gig together every Thursday night, and he was in the Punks with Bart Walsh, and Bart got the David Lee Roth gig. And here's the funny thing: I'd been playing with Ralph for a year, and when Bart got the Dave gig, a few people said when Ralph's like, "Man, we need a guitar player to fill in for Bart while he's on tour," and then a few different people said, "Oh, call Brian," and Ralph calls me up and he goes, Brian, you know, we need a guy to fill in for Bart for the Atomic Punks. And he goes, you know, no, everyone's telling me to call you, but no offense, man, I've only heard you play disco. And I went, we haven't. I thought, I forgot that he had never heard me play other stuff, you know.
Wow.
And I go, and so I played "I'm the One" over. And here's the thing: at the time, I wasn't, you know, playing all these Van Halen songs, but I knew a couple. So over the phone, I played "I'm the One" to Ralph, and little did I know that was the one song that Bart couldn't play, so they didn't play that song. So so I just happened to pick that song. So when Ralph heard me play that over the phone, he's like, "Okay, you got the gig." That was literally, I played one song over the phone.
Yeah, it is.
And so this was on a Tuesday. I had till a week from Friday to learn 17 songs, get some kind of a costume, and get my guitar striped. So I took my old Charvel that was blue with remember the hot rod paint on and I just scraped the paint off, sprayed it blue, put some black electrical tape on it. I was teaching lessons on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I had 10 students on Tuesday, 10 students on Wednesday. I played a San Diego on Thursday, and I was doing other gigs on Fridays and Saturdays, all while I was learning the Tom Punk set. So I was just like going 24 hours a day. I would just do my lessons, go home, practice. And I was pretty nervous, you know, because they were a big deal and everyone was talking about how they nailed Van Halen. And so I knew that there was going to be a whole bunch of guitar players like this.
Yeah.
See what this guy can do. You know, that was going to be, and that's what it felt like. So I remember the first show, my mouth was so dry. I just was drinking all this water, like dry. And I don't get nervous too often. I would say in the past 30 years, that's probably the only time I've really been nervous was the first gig with the Atomic Punks. And then, but once I started playing with them, you know, it came together, and then I started learning a big old catalog. By the time I left, we were doing 40. You know, we had a repertoire of 40 songs. We were doing all kinds of obscure stuff. So when I joined Dave, I only had to use a third of my repertoire to really, because Dave really didn't do like On Fire or, you know, Loss of Control. I mean, there's all these songs. So I was kind of wishing we did more of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dave, I wasn't nervous at all because I've been playing
before you got that call, Bart Walsh, Dave called Bart Walsh, and he was in that band.
No, that was Bart got the gig 3 years before I did.
Yeah,
Bart got the gig in '99. That's why I joined the Punks.
Did you guys joke at that time like, you better get ready, Dave might call you next?
That's what the Atomic Punks were telling me. They were going, after about a year. Here's the thing: I was supposed to fill in for him for 3 months. It turned into 3 years. It just kept getting extended. So after a year, I was thinking like, well, I guess this is my gig, the Punks. You know, like I go, they're not going to let Bart come back after this much time. And then another year, and by the second year, they were going, man, it's only a matter of time before Dave hears you. It's only a matter of time before Dave calls you. And I'm like, oh, that ain't gonna happen. But then it finally did happen. So
Nice.
it was kind of getting to the point where it's like every guitar player in the punk's gonna get in with David Lee Roth.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, you ate up more
Dude.
than half a decade with his band, man. You outlived
Here's another weird little
so many guys.
another fact that I don't think too many people can say this. I've recorded with David Lee Roth and I've recorded with Sammy Hagar. So I don't know how many guitar players besides Eddie have recorded with Dave and Sammy.
Wow.
I recorded with Sammy Hagar in 1989. I did a session and I played on the song. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. It's called Sammy Hagar Dangerous Curves. And if you just, it was never released.
Sandra.
So you can look, it's on YouTube, and I'm playing through a Fender Super Champ.
Dangerous
Just playing into a
Curves.
Fender Super Champ with a 10-inch speaker.
Yeah,
And
wow.
Really?
Because Jesse Harms, Sammy's keyboard player, was a friend of mine, and he used to call me up to come over and do session work at his house. He lived with Ricky Phillips, who's now in Styx. So both those guys would call me for session work because I'd started working with Ricky. Then Jesse heard me and he said, hey, man, I'm doing some recording too. Come over. So he, pay me to just do guitars on their stuff. And one day he said, hey, this is going to be a song for Sammy. And so that Sammy Hagar wrote, and I played on it, and then Sammy sang on it. And
Nice.
so that was just one of those. I don't
That's
know
so
if
cool.
who else has done that. That's
Now,
Probably. You're probably it.
might be,
Now-
besides Ed.
I
Maybe
not-
Guy has. I don't know.
not to get ahead, but after the Sam and Dave tour, and I do want to talk about that because I went and saw you guys. But after that, you jumped right back out on the road after that, and then made music with the Diamond Dave album, and you played on a lot of that.
Yeah, that was done over a long period of time. It wasn't like we just went in the studio and recorded that album. We were just once in a while, Dave would say, hey, let's do a set. He'd call me up for a session. And wasn't even Dave. Usually I get a phone call from Sylvia or somebody, one of his assistants, and hey, Dave wants you in the studio at noon tomorrow, at Henson. I go, okay, cool. And then I go on that. He'd just go, hey, sometimes they tell me learn this song or that, because there's a lot of cover stuff. And but I had no idea it was good. I don't think it was planned on being released right away. I think it just started building up to where he ended up with so much material he decided to put a record out. So
I think
I don't think I knew it was going to be a record till years.
I believe you play on 8 of the 14 songs on that album.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I think so. I got it.
Like
I just
8 of them.
I just had it on vinyl. I've had had a CD, and I see so some of the songs I don't even remember exactly when I recorded, or it's been so, like I said, it was so long ago, and it was done in such bits and pieces, And there's also a few songs we recorded that aren't on that record that I thought were kind of fun. I did Baker Street, and I think Edgar Winter played the sax line.
Wow.
And then I also we did a version of Baby Driver, Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
and there might have been a few others. The guy.
Those are real popular songs that you don't hear about much anymore, but those are great tunes.
They're just fun, yeah, cool songs. They're songs I loved when I was a kid. The guys, Alex Gibson and Nate. They were the two engineers that we worked with all the time. They were young guys. They're really cool, really great at what they did, and I kind of wish I could get a hold of them because I know they have a bunch of really cool. They used to keep the tape running all the time, so they got all the banter from Dave. Just tons,
nice.
hours and hours of Dave talking and that's the fun stuff,
So was Dave? I know there's advantages of having his name on the marquee and it not be an equal partnership among bandmates, but was he cool to work with?
Well, he's Dave. I mean, it's of course it was great to work with him, and it's just, I mean, so many. I can't even tell you. I mean, you think about almost 7 years of just. There's a million things that happen, a million moments. Obviously, there was good and bad. Dave a lot of times, he's a perfectionist. Sometimes after shows, we all get a talking to, but I liked working with him. I always told this to people. I go, it was the fact that he was the boss, and so we all knew our place. And I liked that because a lot of times if you're in a band and there's no boss and everyone's kind of equal, then there's all these fights and everyone's, it's a lot of arguing and each guy tries to be the boss and no one really knows who the boss is. But when Dave's the boss, he just says, we're doing this. And you go, yeah. It's very simple. And if you don't like it, you don't care because it's like, hey, he's paying the bills. What are you going to do?
That's why you're there.
He's the boss. Like anybody who has a job, the boss tells them what they got to do. They got to do it. So I just look at it like, at least I had David Lee Roth for a boss. How cool does it get?
Yeah.
What was the biggest crowd you guys ever played to? Was it in Japan? Was it international? Or
no? I played Dave's biggest gig with him that he's ever played in his life. We played in front of 550,000 people on the 4th of July in Boston.
Wow.
And Dave said that was the biggest show he ever did. And
wow, there's another accolade,
Brian.
Brian.
It was with the orchestra. We were playing with the Boston Pops Symphony Orchestra, and I still remember it's got the hat shell, the Hollywood Bowl looking thing. And all the dressing rooms are under the stage. So when you're under the stage getting ready to go on, you hear the orchestra above your head, And I still remember Dave going, he's like looking around, he goes, I'm kind of nervous. And I go, yeah, because it's the weirdest. It's like we're going to walk out. Here's what happens is we had already rehearsed. So we had done rehearsals with the orchestra it was beautiful too. It's Boston. It was like July. It's in the daytime. We would get like a police escort. We'd be in the van. There'd be 4 motorcycles in front, 4 motorcycles at back, escorting us to the gig because they were practicing for the real night. So we'd have the escorts back and forth because the real deal was massive. So so we get I still remember laughing because I go that we'd be pulling up and all these people would see the cops with their little sirens going off and they're waiting to see Michael Jackson get out. And then me and Ray and James would get out of the van. They're like, oh, what are you doing? It's Michael Jackson. It's got to be the president. It's like these 3 long-haired dudes that they don't know who they are.
Yeah, they had no idea.
So we would rehearse with the orchestra. Keith Lockhart was the conductor. And so we did, rehearsals in the daytime, like 2 or 3 full-on rehearsals. And I still remember this cool thing where he's got the music all laid out on the stand, hanging over the edge of so wide of pages. And we're talking about the ending of, I don't remember if it was Jump. We played a few songs. And we were talking about, see, this whole thing was done for TV, live on CBS, the whole thing. So, and everything's really like a live TV show. Mm-hmm. And so it was too long. And they wanted to do something. I said, well, there's this part here. I go, we can just take this part out. I'm looking at the chart. I said, we can just skip this part here and just go right to there. And then he's like, oh, great. And all of a sudden in my head, I go, if my dad could see me right now, I'm with the Boston Pops conductor suggesting an idea and he's going, cool, let's do that. And I'm thinking, how the heck did I get into this position?
That is so cool, man.
Yeah, so the night we did the real thing, it's the 4th of July. They have the jets flying over and then the whole show. And it was really, really cool. And it's on, that's also, you can look that, it's on YouTube.
500,000 people.
Yeah. So they said that what's funny, they said they were expecting 500,000 on the paper the day before, but then the paper the day after said there was 550,000 people.
Wow. So, now you actually, we were both at the US Festival. You made it to the US Festival, didn't you? Now, they say that was 300,000 people. I heard a bunch of cops in a tent talking about it, a bunch of sheriffs. They said there was 500,000 people there too.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, it looks massive. And, when you see the videos of it,
So you got to actually watch Van Halen.
Oh, yeah. I was in the front row, smashed against the wall with my girlfriend after the Scorpions finished.
Yep.
And we were waiting for Van Halen.
Yes.
And we were just getting smashed.
Yes, you were.
Right in front of Eddie's side. And we were just dying. And they're taking forever. Remember that? It was like an hour between the Scorpions and Van Halen. And finally, after about 45 minutes, my girlfriend just goes, I can't take it anymore. And she had to squeeze over. And you know how you do.
So the bouncers took her, right?
I should have just stayed. We squeezed over. We both did. And
we had to go with her. You had to go with her.
I ended up being like 100 feet back. but I could have been front row. But you know, whatever.
So you weren't the guy squirting water at David.
No, there's never anyone doing that. That's
Where
a line
did
he
you
pulls out
end
every
up?
show.
His shtick,
Oh,
right?
really? Okay.
Yeah, he just goes, "Who's that throwing water at me? Man, I'm gonna fuck your girlfriend." You know, he just likes to say that line, so he'll pretend someone thinks about him.
It's a good line. I got lots of laughs out of it, so it works.
Yeah.
It's classic, man. It's classic.
Yeah, I'm sure it happened a couple of times.
That was a great show, though.
Once
I
or
mean,
twice.
even though we all complained, you know, I mean, do you remember when everyone was leaving after Van Halen finished? Everyone was pretty disappointed in Van Halen at that moment. I don't know if you remember.
It's interesting, Brian, you're saying that, because I thought personally, okay, I had been there for 2 days at that point. I was working security. That was what I did. And I spent that whole day, you and your girlfriend went over the wall. I spent all day that day and the day before receiving people at a medical tent. You know, did you guys make it to the medical tent at all, or
we didn't have to do that? We weren't hurt. We just gave up.
You guys weren't hurt at all. I got you. A lot of people were getting pressed up, especially females were taking it bad, and they were losing their breath, and it was really serious.
It was definitely that.
But when I went home, first of all, I was really impressed with Triumph. I got to say that again. Triumph's show was awesome. Every show that day was killer. But Van Halen's show, I thought it was one of the best Van Halen shows I'd ever seen, even with all of Dave's garbage.
Yeah, well,
I really loved it.
We all got the video now. The whole thing's on. You know,
yeah.
It's not as bad as I remember, but I think that. But I still remember the next day, everyone was going, "Scorpions ruled. Van Halen sucked." I mean, I'm not kidding. I was hearing that from tons of people. But really, what happened was people were just pissed off because everybody knew Van Halen was getting 1.5 million, and that was the biggest price paid at the time, and everybody had delivered their A game. I mean, Ozzy was out there ruling. I mean, even Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Ozzy, Triumph, Judas Priest kicked ass, and then the Scorpions came out and they fucking killed it.
Scorpions are killer, and they had the light show. The Scorpions had the first light show for the evening.
Yeah, and they were just on fire. They and then Van Halen came out like they didn't care, and also they made you wait for an hour. And everybody,
the hour was tough. The hour was
no
tough.
Monk and no
Remember
Monk.
the video? Remember the video they played before the show?
The one with the Clash? The one before the Clash?
No, the video before Van Halen played of them backstage.
Yes.
Fake party video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys know this, but when you're there, like I said, everyone's been waiting for longer than you've ever waited between any two bands in your life. Every band's got half hour. Now it's an hour, maybe longer. And you're waiting and getting really bummed out. And then all of a sudden, this screen comes up. On the big screen, a video pops up, and it's them backstage. Donkeys are walking around. They're throwing confetti. They're drinking booze. They're playing pinball. Hey, we're getting ready to go party. And they're doing all this shit. And everybody's out there going, fuck you, man. Come out and play. And it turns out that thing was filmed a week before. That whole thing was filmed a week before, but they played it. So everyone was kind of getting pissed off. Like they're out there dying, and they're back there. There's videotapes of them guzzling booze. A donkey walks by, you know, Michael Anthony's playing the pinball machine. And strippers walking around and stuff, and you know, confetti flying, and Jim Ladd's acting all weird. You remember Jim Ladd? So I think a lot of people were kind of getting pissed at this point, going like, we're all waiting out here. You guys are making $1 million, and you're just back there getting drunk while we're out here suffering. You know, so I think there was an anger, and then Dave comes out, and he was wasted.
He was, but he was always the bad boy. You know,
it was a long day. It was definitely a long day.
The heat was tough on you too. 114 degrees, bro.
They were out there spraying fire hoses on people just to save them.
Their own manager said that it was a disaster. He said it was their biggest show they ever played, and they blew it. The biggest that it was just.
I remember and this was after seeing Scorpions go out there doing like the most important show of their life and ruling as hard as they could. They were so slick, spot on, and that was like I said, it was just the contrast of a bunch of bands giving you their A game, and then Van Halen appeared to not give a crap. Even though I watched the video now, and it's not nearly as bad as I remember.
I got to tell you, I think it's
Eddie played good at
one of the best solos of Eruption I've ever seen Edward play.
I loved how Eddie's pack messed up early on and I remember watching them right there on stage, and he just starts messing, pulls it off, you know, the strap, and I thought to myself, man, that's badass. That dude's just. my stuff's fucking up. I'm in front of 500,000 people. I'm just gonna sit there and fix it. Nope. And I'm not gonna like go running off and have to get a tech or something. It was just like he just did it right there in front of everybody. And I thought, man, that's cool. That guy's like just no sweat on it. You know, he's like, you're fucking cool.
Did you see Mike's cord come unplugged?
I was just
He
gonna bring
ran
that
too
up,
far?
yeah.
No, I don't remember. What song was that during?
I think it was during his bass solo, wasn't it? He was.
Really?
I guess the cord was like for a regular size stage, and they didn't realize it. And he went too far, and it unplugged. And they had to make it look like I think the Dugan
He
had
didn't realize it. He was involved.
Yeah, Dugan had to make it look like he ran out there like it was
My fault. Yeah.
They said the cord was too short for the stage, really, basically.
Awesome. Yeah, that was definitely a neat. I'm glad I was at that show, and all those. Like I said, it was a pretty historic day, and it was $25 for tickets for that whole.
Wasn't that crazy? Isn't that the most craziest thing?
Nice.
I'm surprised nobody was killed at that. I mean, coming off the Who in Cincinnati like a year earlier.
Somebody was. There was. Yeah, the day
mean,
before, the first day, day one.
I can only imagine how many people were crushed in there,
It was crazy. The medical tent was hit with over 250 people within, I would say, a 20-minute period. And they were lined up waiting to get in there. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. People were dropping like flies, and they weren't letting people bring their own food.
Oh man,
or their own water. And so
I probably didn't even eat all day. I don't even, like I said, there's parts of this I don't even remember because I go, did I eat back? I mean, it's just it's try to remember when you didn't have a cell phone and go, how did I do it back then? You can't even remember.
Yeah, right.
You know? But my brother, I was with my brother Tim. I have 4 brothers, but I know that Tim and Chris, my youngest brother was 11 years old, and he was with us, and we lost him before noon and didn't see him again until after the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He said he had a great time, and he was all,
not surprised that you lost him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. I can't believe that we would bring an 11-year-old to that concert, but
you weren't the only ones who did that.
Yeah, dude.
It was so cool,
man. It was cool, man.
Hey, how about Brian? Before the show, I asked you something. You know, you got your start on the Strip, man, in L.A. You've played. How many clubs in LA have you played?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. 50.
Well, I've actually seen you, and I thought it was in 85. I said the end of 84, 85, but it actually had to be 86, 87, I guess.
Which band?
Lemoore?
Oh, really? Where at?
Well, you played the I love this. Okay, so you played the Troubadour, I believe. You played the Country Club in Reseda.
Country Club at Vixen.
You actually, I believe you guys headlined that. I believe Vixen, you opened for our Vixen opened for you.
Yeah, yes.
Is that correct?
They were before they hit big.
There was a couple of other bands that I was into. A band called Vermin and Tyrant, and
recognize those names.
Scarlet was another band that I was. Remember those guys? Yeah. So there was a lot of bands that. I don't remember every single show that I saw you at, but it was at least 3 but by the end of 89, I had left and I went to Honolulu, Hawaii, probably the end of 90, I guess is when it was. And I saw you guys a couple of 3 times at least.
Yeah, that band didn't play a ton of shows. Nice. What happened was Jeff, he had left Yngwie. I really don't remember why he quit Yngwie, but he wasn't very happy at the time.
You're talking about Jeff Scott Soto?
Yeah. I got you. He was with Yngwie. I don't know if he joined in 84, right after Alcatraz, but he was with Yngwie during 85. And a lot of guys weren't getting paid back then. You know, Yngwie's manager was kind of snorting a lot of money up his nose and ripping everybody off. And then the only guy that the guy would pay would be Yngwie, and the other guys weren't getting paid. Wow. They were getting burned a lot. So I think Jeff might have quit over that. I mean, so in fact, Yngwie's girlfriend was the one who told Jeff to call me when Jeff was looking for a guitar player, because it was my ex-girlfriend, the girl that got stuck with me in that girl that was in the front row with Van Halen, and she ended up being, after we broke up, she ended up going out with Yngwie for 4 years. So all during Alcatraz, all during Alcatraz, and from 84 to like 88, that was my ex-girlfriend. In fact, if you look at that Rising Force album with the girl's hand holding up that guitar, I haven't finished her hand.
Wow,
I'm
that
gonna
is
call her and
cool.
find out.
Wow, dude.
We're still friends. Her name's Greta Nelson.
That is
That
so
is
impressive.
Yeah, so Ingve
That's
was
so cool.
so Ingve was dating her, but she already we had been together for a year, so she knew that I was a good guitar player and stuff. So when Jeff was looking for a guitar player, he actually talked to Greta and said, you know any good guitar players? She said, oh, call Brian Young. And she gave him my phone number, and he looked at the phone number and it said 805 area code, and that's Ventura County, and
Sure.
LA guys do Ventura, yeah. So then he didn't call me, and then a week or so later, he had another friend who said, man, I'm looking for a guitar player who can play the Ingve stuff, and I want to, I'm putting a band together. And the guy goes, hey, I know this guy in Ventura named Brian Young. You should call him. He's like, wait, that's the same guy Greta told me about. So 2 different people mentioned my name to Jeff. So he finally called me, and
Nice.
so then we started playing together. So this was like late '85,
Okay.
and then and we
When
started.
when did you guys do your first gig as L'Amour?
Man, I couldn't possibly tell you. It had to be sometime in early '86, I'm guessing, or mid '86.
I could have sworn it was 85, dude. I'm just saying, I'm kind of thinking 85, the end of 85, but
I don't think so, because
yeah.
I remember it was pretty. Jeff's birthday is in November.
Okay.
And he had his birthday pretty soon after I met him.
Okay.
So it was definitely the end of '85 when I met him, and I know it took us a while to put the band together.
Okay.
In fact, I was doing a top 40 gig in Ventura County, playing 5 sets a night for $50, and Jeff joined my band to make money. We were making $50 a night playing 5 sets. So we were doing 5 45-minute sets for $50 of just everything from Stones to ZZ Top to whatever, just top 40 music, playing biker bars out in Ojai and Ventura.
Can I ask you a question, Brian? How did that help you as a writer and as a guitar player?
Well,
learning all those cover tunes, did that give you kind of a diversity?
Absolutely.
Right?
If I didn't do that gig, I would be a one-dimensional guitar player. Because before I joined that band, I was doing just heavy metal, basically. I was in metal bands, and
because that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I like shredding guitar, ripping bands. We my old band. We loved like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, that kind of stuff. So when I had to do, next thing you know, I'm playing Bryan Adams songs and Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and we played Relax when it came out.
Wow. Wow.
So it definitely added all kinds of dimensions to my playing that I would have never gotten without it. So Jeff and I did that gig, and Jeff would drive from the Valley. I mean, so the Valley then, I guess, Charles, right?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
He would drive from the Valley to Camarillo, where I lived, and then we'd load up into my car, and my little brother played the drums. So it was me.
Oh, you were in Camarillo?
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
I got you. Okay.
So me and my brother Rich and Jeff would be all piled in my little mini truck in the front seat. The 3 of us, my brothers, over the straddling the stick shift.
Straddling the stick. Gotcha.
And we got a drum set in my Marshall half stack in the back of the car. And Jeff's giant. He's like 6'5". So he tried to drive 45 minutes to my house. Then we drove another 45 minutes to play these bars for $50. Then drive back to my house, and Jeff drive back. Jeff wouldn't get back to the Valley. So Jeff was leaving the Valley at 6 at night and getting home at 4 in the morning to make $50.
Wow.
And that's what we were doing while we were putting the band L'Amour together. And one of the bass players that we almost jammed with is Mike Inez. He was almost our bass player. Yeah, we knew him and we liked him, and I thought he was going to be the bass player, but Jeff had another friend that was more of a friend of his.
Well,
and
you guys were really good. And Brian, I got to tell you, if Scott so he ended up going back to Ingve. What happened.
That's how that band ended. That's
if
why
he hadn't, you guys would have been signed.
Possibly.
I believe so.
We had management, and we had some demos.
You had
trying to get a deal.
Point.
There were lots of bands that got signed that didn't have half your chops, half your ability.
It was pretty cool, man. Yeah, it was like, cool. Really, it seemed so quick, man. It probably was a year, but it flew by from the time we met to the time that he was back with Ingve. And that's what happened. Ingve fired Mark Bowles in the middle of the tour, and then just literally called Jeff, goes, hey, get on the plane. We're in the middle of a tour.
What happened there, Brian? Do you know?
What
happened there with Mark Bowles? Do you know?
Oh, why? No, I don't know. But just I know that Ingve had, a lot of people came and went. A lot of people got fired.
Yeah. I kind of imagine that. Hey, so are you telling everyone that that's your ex-girlfriend's arm?
No, I don't know. I don't know if that. I think it might be, because I don't see why anyone else would he would have had anyone else doing that picture. It was
no. It would make sense, of course, that he
his
would have just
girlfriend at the
used
time.
his girlfriend at the time.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
exactly. That's super cool, brother.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna call her and find out.
Oh, please do. Let me know. Let me know. That would be really, really cool. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Brian. So 2006 comes, and I know Dave wanted to keep his band in place, but when did you guys as a band start knowing that Eddie and Alex and his son were reforming Van Halen?
Later in 2006, because 2006 started out with the radio show. That was that New Year's Eve, January 1st. We did the radio show January, February, March, April. And then when we got fired, because basically that's what happened, Dave got fired from the station. And that's a whole story. I could write a book about that in 4 months. And then we just went right back on tour. So April. So by the end of May, we were back on the road, and we toured through the year. And then it was later in the year. It was one of our last shows. I think we were playing in Canada. And Dave, after the show, he had us all in the dressing room, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know so you don't hear this on the internet." He goes, "But I'm going back with Van Halen." And we were like, "Wow, awesome!" So cool. And that's when he told us. So it was sometime late in 06.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. Then I knew I had to start looking for a gig. But like I said, I forgot, the plot thickens. So this was towards the end of 2006. Dave would still call me once in a while. He liked to go in the studio just to have fun. Like, he didn't really like to practice. So for Dave, practicing would be, I'm going to Henson, he'd call a drummer, he'd call a bass player, call me, and he'd just say, "Come on down, we're going to jam, or we're going to record." And then we'd do a song. And that's Dave being in the studio, singing, doing his thing. And that's so I did that a few times while this Van Halen thing was coming together. And they were supposed to go on tour like spring, and Ed was a mess. And they were doing a photo shoot, and it was like one of those this is the big photo shoot. Live Nation is paying for this thing. And they were supposed to be there from noon till all hours.
Yeah, I think
that's the one with the winter hat on. When he was wearing the winter hat, you could tell.
No. Ed was there Ed showed up wasted at like noon. And within a couple hours, he was gone, and no one knew where he went. And then the Live Nation just says, "Tour's off until this guy goes to rehab." So they canceled the tour right there. And they literally said, Eddie Van Halen's got to go to rehab for the tour to be on. So then that's when I started doing more stuff with Dave. This is early 2007. And then so Ed goes to rehab and comes out of rehab, and still no one hears from him for a few weeks. And I still remember being at Dave's house, and I'm sure you all know that, that photo of Van Halen on the back stairs of Dave's house where they're all standing there. Me and Dave were sitting right on those steps, and Dave was super bummed out. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like June, we should just go out and play shows. And I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, how long are you going to give Ed? He goes, "I'll give him the rest of the year." I go, "Okay." So I was kind of like, he was bummed, and he just goes, "I'm going to wait until Ed's ready to go." And so that was it. So like I said, they were supposed to start probably in May, but they ended up not starting until September. So then I actually got a call back to Jeff Scott Soto. Right around this time, Jeff Scott Soto calls me up and goes, "Hey, Brian." He had a band called Talisman with Marcel Jacob, Yngwie's old bass player, and a few different guitar players have done that gig. And they had a guy that one of their guys something came up, and suddenly they had no guitar player, and they had like 2 weeks to find somebody to do this European tour. So Jeff just goes, "Can you learn this stuff and do this European tour?" And I go, "I'll try." And next thing you know, I'm learning a whole pile of songs to do this thing with Jeff. And so I went out on the road with Jeff for a while. And then when I came back, that was like July. And then August, and Eddie still wasn't back, but somewhere around, I think around August, they started doing stuff again, and then they went on tour in September. So,
Wow.
I like Jeff.
yeah, he's a great singer.
He's
He's
I
really
like
awesome
the
singer.
voice.
He's a classic guy too.
Yeah.
He's done so many different. He's on so many records. He's worked with so many people.
Yeah.
And I love that Sons of Apollo thing he's doing.
Hey, Brian, let me ask you this. Speaking about Jeff, a number of years ago, he actually was in Australia. I don't know how many. It might be 8, 9, or 10 around that. I saw his name on a billboard at one of Melbourne's rock clubs, but just under his own name, not a band or anything. That wouldn't have been you playing with him on that.
I didn't go to Australia. I'd never been to Australia. He has Talisman. Then he has just sometimes tours as Jeff Scott Soto.
Yeah.
And then he has a couple of other kind of project bands that are his with just different people he knows. He has some guys he has a kind of a lineup of guys from Brazil that he does a certain band with, and they play different places. So, but Talisman is something that came up right after I was in Bo Nasty at the time. It was late 80s after Yngwie, and after he had gone back to Yngwie and then left again. And he was putting a band together with Marcel, because Marcel was the bass player who quit Yngwie.
Yeah.
Bass player. And so they came over to my place. I had a little place in North Hollywood in my little 8-track studio. And we recorded a couple songs together, Marcel. And it was, I didn't know, but this is becoming Talisman at the time. And I recorded 2 songs with him. And I think Jeff was checking me out to be in that band, and without really coming out and saying it. But Marcel didn't like my playing. He thought I sounded too American. That's what Jeff said. Jeff goes, yeah, well, Marcel, well, we were looking for a guitar player, but Marcel thinks you sound too American. So, but so whatever that was. So
whatever sound that is,
Yeah. I mean, I can hear this European sound. A lot of those guys sounded like Yngwie. They got a very melodic,
you're talking about like a real harmonic minor kind of more thing, right? Yeah.
That was that, and I was doing that a little bit, but I guess not enough.
Not enough.
I didn't sound European enough. But
more raised sevens, bro. More raised sevens.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got to play with him much later. That was in '89. And I ended up touring with him in 2007.
Cool.
So, but just as a fill-in guy, it was also a wacky little tour.
Yeah, right.
Our first show was opening for Deep Purple, though, so that was kind of neat.
That would have been very cool.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Very cool. Hey, Brian, there's a couple of questions in the chat that I can ask on behalf of you cats. There was I saw a couple from you, Ed, so I'll get to those. But you were just talking just before about how David Lee Roth would call a rehearsal and just call you guys in to what sort of jam and write, that sort of thing. Is that what you mean?
Usually it'd be like if it was in a studio session, he would say to learn a cover tune, and some of the stuff ended up being that Diamond Dave album. It would just be like, I want to do a song, I want to do an old Beatles tune, or I want to do an old Steve Miller song, and then learn this song, and then we go, because before the tour, that first Sam and Dave tour, we did a ton of acoustic songs. Dave put together an entire hour's worth of acoustic, all these old blues and jazzy funk tunes. And it was just me on acoustic, James on acoustic bass, Ray on a couple of bongo drums, us all singing background vocals. We had to work out all these harmonies. And it was called the Radio Rodeo.
Right.
We were doing these we were loading into radio stations at 6 a.m., setting up our stuff and doing live acoustic shows while Dave would do interviews and stuff. And I have a couple of them on iTunes format. A few people. I wish I had taped them all. I just show up and do my thing. Sometimes people would tape them and send them to me.
Yeah.
I have all the radio shows on iTunes. A guy sent me all the radio shows. Yeah, all that.
Wow, that's cool.
So,
how is James Lomenzo to work with? James is the original guy in White Line. He spent time in Megadeth. But you
with Zach Well with the Black Label Society. No, he's great, man. No, he's awesome. He's a totally cool guy. And
you guys spent a bunch of time together.
Yeah, to me, that first year with Dave was my favorite because nothing against Toshi. I love Toshi Hiketa, the guitar player, but when the first tour was just the 3-piece lineup like Van Halen without a second guitar. Right. And our voices blended together. James and Ray would both do the Eddie voice. So they would both do that lower harmony, and I would do the Michael Anthony harmony part. So I was like, man, I get to play Eddie's licks and sing Michael's harmonies, man. I go, this is like the greatest gig ever. And because I had the high voice, and I don't sound like Mike, but I can hit the notes. So and James and Ray together would sing that one note. So it was we had this perfect blend.
Oh yeah.
We really sounded good. And we were, like I said, we were doing those morning radio shows and singing, early in the morning. It was pretty rough, but like I said, Dave really, puts us through like boot camp, makes you work for it.
We're going to get to that right there. Yeah. What is all the mystique about that Sam and Dave tour? Us as fans, we only hear what we hear, and we hear that it didn't go so well. What's the truth about that tour, Brian?
That's a good question.
It didn't go so well. Is the truth.
It is the truth.
Here's what happened. I think there's already a book out that I know who wrote it, but he doesn't have his name on the book because he probably signed a non-disclosure agreement. He was a guy that worked for Dave and spilled his beans and put it out in a book. And I read the book, or I saw parts and I go, I know this had to be the guy because there was only 3 guys in the room, and I
right.
I go, there's no one else could know this. So
right.
So Dave was never open to meeting Sammy at all. There was literally no shaking of hands with Dave and Sammy, or even being in the same room together ever.
Not that Sammy didn't try, right? Sammy tried.
Sammy tried. From day one, it was Sammy putting his hand out and Dave slamming the door.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
And in fact, the first day, Sammy invited somebody came over to our camp and said, "Hey, you guys, Brian, James, Ray, Sammy Hagar wants to meet you guys." Great. So we all walk into his dressing room, and he's got a little pad. Does this all like nice hanging, and he just shakes all our hands. Nice to meet you guys. Hey, whatever you want, you're always welcome over here. Just totally cool. And we're like, cool, right? Thanks. And then also Jesse Harms was his keyboard player, who I had already known for years, since the late 80s. So I had a friend in his camp, and then I met Vic, and he's so cool. We hit it off right away.
Yeah,
and,
cool.
And I think Sammy would have walked right on stage with us and sang a song anytime David asked. So the first couple shows we played, I think we opened in Cleveland, and then we might have played Chicago or something. And I think the third show was in Detroit. And so far, Dave and Sammy haven't seen each other at all. In fact, one of the first nights, we're in the dressing room eating dinner after the show, and there's a knock at the door. Who is it? Hey, Dave, it's Sammy. Hey, man. Dave goes, who's that? Is that? We go, Sammy. And he goes, don't open it.
Oh,
and so we're sitting there and he goes, bam, bam, bam.
So
Hey, come on, Dave, man. It's Sammy. Let me in. Hey, I got some tequila for you. Come on. And Dave's like, don't open the door. He ain't coming in. That was so we just sat there eating our dinner. And then when he left, we opened the door and there's a bottle of tequila sitting on the ground.
Oh, nice.
Cabo Wabo. So
can I interrupt you, Brian, for 1 second? Because Ed in the chat there, this will be relevant to that, was asking, I'm imagining that it was Dave did not really want you fraternizing or hanging out with.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
He didn't really tell us. I don't remember him ever saying anything like that at first.
Yeah, he didn't ask you not to, but would
no, let me just say because it evolves to something like that. So
yeah.
So then a couple nights later, we're playing in Detroit. This is another great night for me because so after the show, we had a security guard named Chili, and he came up and he says, Brian, hey, Ted Nugent wants to meet you. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's awesome. I love Ted Nugent. And I walked out there and Ted Nugent shakes my hand and said, hey, damn good guitar playing. And I'm just like, yes. I was like, when I was a little kid listening to Nugent, I heard that someday I'd grow up and he'd shake my hand and say, damn good guitar player. And that's like a kid's dream come true. And so I talked to Ted for a little while, and then thanks, nice to meet you. We took off, and I'm walking down this hallway with Matt Matt Sensio, Dave's manager, grabs me. Brian, come here, come here, come here. We walk down this hallway. He opens this door and kind of shoves me in. And it's Dave and Kid Rock are just sitting in this room, in one of the dressing rooms. So I walk in, hey, what's happening? How's it going? Hey, what's up? We start talking. And we're drinking shots, the three of us. And we're just getting pretty buzzed and talking shit. And then Kid Rock says, Dave, man, you guys should get Sammy to come up and jam with you on stage. Man, that'd be so cool, if you guys would do that. Dave's like, yeah, man, And I think Dave, one thing about Dave is younger people that are current and hip, he would have some respect for. Like Kid Rock, he was thinking, well, this is 2002. So Kid Rock's pretty big. And Dave's like, listening to him and thinking, yeah, maybe that is something I should do. And we're just hammering the shots, and then by the end of the night, it's like, all right, tomorrow, man, we're gonna jam with Sam. We're gonna do something. And we're like, wow, cool. Wow. And then the next day, we're sitting in the dressing room, and Dave just comes walking in, just hunched over, just totally hungover, and he goes, there will be no jam tonight, like that. So that was about the closest to something happening. And then after that once Kid Rock's influence drifted off into space, that idea just faded away. And there was going to be no, jams. And as time went on, so like I said, there was a few. Oh yeah, okay. The incident that really fucked everything up was the night that Dave Lauser, Sammy's drummer, said, hello, boys and girls, when Dave was walking by in the hallway, and he goes, hello, boys and girls. And he happened to connect eye contact with Dave when he said, and girls. And Dave took it as him going, hello, boys and girls, like looking at me.
Right.
He goes, fuck you. And I'm in the dressing room, and I'm just doing my scales. I used to play my nylon string guitar and do some of my scales before the show get warmed up. And I just hear, fuck you. And I'm just hearing all this shit. Then I just hear door get kicked open. I hear breaking glass, people screaming, all this noise. And then Matt Sensio, then I hear someone say, we're 2 minutes, guys. We're on in 2 minutes. Matt Sensio comes running in, hands me this little videotape from a camera. I'm going to try to shape one of those mini videotapes, hands it to me, and he goes, hide this. And I just I put it in my little zipper bag, and then we go on stage and play, and I don't know what the hell just happened. Turns out I find out that what happened was Dave Lauser had said that thing. David said, fuck you. Then there was a bunch of cussing back and forth. Dave's security guards they were yelling at their guys. And then they busted into Sammy Hagar's dressing room while they were in there eating dinner with the whole band and some wives and everything. And there was a film crew in there filming them having dinner. And these guys went in there and dumped their table over. Dave's security guys dumped their table over, ruined everything, and then they grabbed the camera and took the videotape out because they didn't want to have any evidence and gave it to me to hide.
Wow.
So I had that videotape in my bag and forgot all about it for like a month. And I sure wish I thought more about it, because it ended up. So this is where things were getting. This is when everything went to hell. Now they're literally hiring a construction crew at every show to come in and build a wall so that you cannot get from their dressing rooms to our dressing rooms in the building. It's cut off by a wall. And was it who? John Wadner came to a show, and we were talking, and he's like, and he sees the wall, and he goes, is that really the wall that people have been talking about? I go, yeah, I think he took a picture of himself in front of the wall, because he's like, I've been hearing these stories that you guys are building a wall between the dressing rooms, and I just thought, that's just a joke. And he's like, no, it's really there. And so that's how bad it got.
Wow.
So now Matt Sensio is telling me, well, Brian, you got friends in their camp. See what you could do to smooth things out. Maybe because they're talking, they're adding legs to the tour. Now we're going, once they finish this leg, it's over. We're done. Sammy Hagar's going, we're going to finish these shows, and that's it. No more.
And the tour was doing really well, right?
Go for 2 years.
And the tour was doing really well, right?
Yeah, so they were planning on going like 2 years. So this is only like 6 months into a 2 year allegedly possibility. And Sammy's like, I'm finishing till this last date, and we're not adding any more shows. And so Matt Sensio started telling me, what can you do? You got friends in there, man. Go talk to Jesse, call him up and see if you can, smooth things out. And I did call Jesse, and he just said, hey, dude, man, just Sammy's just like, no way on earth he's going to play any more shows with Dave. He's just completely done. And so anyway, so we're sitting there in Virginia Beach or somewhere where there's like a long boardwalk. Me, James Lomenzo, Ray Luzier, and Matt Sensio are sitting at a table outdoors on a promenade by the beach, ordering sushi and having some drinks. So let me think now. It's me. I guess Ray must be next to me. Matt Sensio and James Lomenzo are across from me. And we have drinks at the table, and we had just ordered a bunch of food, a bunch of sushi. And Matt Sensio starts talking about kind of us versus them. And I said, well, hey, man, those guys are my friends. I understand. He goes, no, Brian. He goes, fuck those guys. You fucking don't want to like those. You can't hang with those guys. You're either with us or with them. And I go, listen, dude, these guys are friends of mine, man. I'm not going to us or them. And he's like, and he started going, don't even look at me. I don't want to look at you. And he started getting all, and I go, Matt, come on. It's me, Brian, man. Look at me, dude. Fuck you, Brian. Fuck you. I don't want to look at you. And I'm like, Matt. And all of a sudden I just started getting all this anger, and I thought about that shit they did. And I just picked up the table and just dumped the table like this. And all the drinks went on James Lomenzo.
Oh, J-Lo.
I was trying to get Matt, and I by the time the table fell over, I was running around the building because Matt Sensio was like a bulldog from Boston who was going to beat the shit out of me. So I just ran like I'm not a fighter, man. And then I called my wife, and I go, I'm getting fired. I'm getting fired right now. It's over, man. I just now dumped the table on Matt Sensio, and she had already known all the drama, so and I said, I just dumped the table of everything on Matt Sensio, and all of a sudden, while I'm talking to her, beep, 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 my phone. I go, hold on a second. It's Matt Sensio's calling. I go, fuck. I go, hold on a second. Click. What? And he goes, dude, if you want this fucking gig, you better be over here fucking sucking my dick right now. And I'm like, and I click over. Yeah, I gotta go suck.
Sorry, honey, I have to go now.
So I'm just, like I said, I'm freaking out. I mean, it's just like I'm just stressing, I'm shaking, and I held the phone and I go back. James and Ray are sitting there with a big pile of to-go boxes. All our food is packed up to take now, and James is all wet from the drink, and Matt's gone. So Matt's back at the tour bus, and we're about a couple miles down the road, and all they have is these trolley cars that you get on that drive like 5 miles an hour. So we all hop on this trolley car, and we're riding back to the tour bus, and I'm just going, oh fuck, I'm so fired. And they're like, oh man, they go, no, Matt can't fire you. I go, I don't know, dude. I go, this is so bad. And we get back to the bus, and I walk on the bus, and the first thing Matt says to me is, he goes, where's that videotape? I go, what? He goes, that videotape. That had been in my bag for a month. I wish back then that I had just go, oh, I threw that thing away. But I was so scared I went and got it and gave it to him. That would be worth $1 million right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Them trashing Sammy's room. And so I gave him the videotape back, and he just started laying into me. And I spent 30 minutes just telling me what a piece of shit I was and what a pussy I was. And I was, like I said, he was a badass motherfucker. And he didn't hit me though. And the next day, all the security guys were talking about it. Hey, man, Brian, man. He goes, oh, Dave's not fired. He goes, Dave loves you, man. You're not going nowhere. And I'm like, okay, because I go, man. He goes, they go, Matt can't fire you, man. Dave, only Dave can fire you. And so for about 2 weeks, we didn't talk, me and Matt. It was like a real bad thing. Right. But this was all because of the whole thing. It was almost like me lifting that table was kind of repeating what they had done to Sammy, you know,
Mhm.
especially when Matt wouldn't look at me like I'm some kind of traitor because I was not going to be enemies with my friends.
Mhm.
So it was ugly, man. There was a lot of ugly stuff in that tour, you know, towards the last month. And then, of course, when it ended, and then to make it even worse, Sammy got sick and the last 2 shows were canceled.
Oh,
So
so
we
you're
didn't even have a proper
Wow.
ending.
Wow.
Hey Brian, did you ever see Michael Anthony there? Did he ever try to?
Yeah, oh yeah, he popped up a lot. He would fly in and out. Like he would come in and be there for a few days, and he would fill in. Like they used to do a joke where Mona, the girl, the bass player, that girl Mona,
Yeah.
she would in the middle of the show, she would say, "Hey, I gotta go to the bathroom." Sammy said, "What? You know, we got 15,000 people here. What do you mean you gotta go to the bathroom? I gotta go." And she'd run off the stage and they go, "What are we gonna do?" And Michael Anthony would come running out.
That's cool.
Oh, they really
The
want-
place would go crazy. It was
Of
so
course,
great.
of course, yeah.
So cool.
Did he ever have any interaction with Dave at all? Did you ever see anything like that?
Okay, this is another one of the weirdest stories of my life. Fuck, it just gets, there's so much shit on this story. So it's after a show. I somehow end up in Sammy Hagar's dressing room. They're having dinner. There's a long table. A bunch of people are eating. I'm hanging out there, and Michael Anthony's there. And this might have been one of the first times I met Mike. And he goes, "Brian, do you think I could talk to Dave?" And I'm like, I think so. You know, I literally, Michael Anthony is asking me if he could talk to Dave, and he hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And so I'm like going, hold on a minute. And I run out there and I go to Dave. I go, "Hey, Michael Anthony wants to talk to you. Is that, you know?" And he goes, "Can I bring him over?" He goes, yeah, you know. And I walk back and I go, "Mike, yeah, come on." You know, I'm literally walking Mike to meet Dave. It was the weirdest. It was such a weird. I felt like unworthy to be. Who am I to say if you could talk to Dave? I mean, come on.
And they hadn't seen each other in many years.
Since '85, probably.
Wow.
So this is
Wow.
so it wasn't 20 years, like 17. But yeah, so that was just a weird moment to me. It was like for Michael Anthony to ask me if he could talk to Dave.
Wow.
Such a trippy thing. But
That is definitely it speaks volumes for how bad the situation must have been if Mike's asking somebody else if he can talk to Dave, you know?
Yeah, it was. It's like he's not approachable, you know. And already those guys by then, they had already known before Mike came out that Samuel had been pounded on the door and been not allowed in.
Yeah.
So, but I was, and the other bummer is why, you know, Mike could have played songs with us too, and we would have loved to have him. But Dave does have a thing about his show being really regimented and not a lot of messing around, you know, except for when he's going to run a little thing during a little vamp maybe. But I think it would have been great to have Mike come up and play a couple songs.
I would have.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Would have been awesome.
Did you guys in the band hang out with Dave after gigs?
Usually we would we'd all have dinner after the show. That was our normal routine. And then kind of drift apart on our own little areas for a little while. You know, I always had some wine. I used to, on the rider, I wanted a bottle of wine. So I'd be drinking some wine. And with Doug Short, our monitor guy, he was the other wino. And then we'd go to the bus whenever, you know, everyone knew kind of what time it was supposed to be to leave. And the big deal would be that you'd go on the bus and hope that you smelled reefer, because if you smelled reefer, you knew Dave was going to be in a good mood. So we'd get on the bus sniffing around, and if you didn't smell any pot, you better like, okay, we need it. Just that was Dave's medicine, you know. Basically, if he's puffing it, and so then we'd all sit in the front lounge of the bus, you know, and we all had our spots. You know, me and Dave would be at the little table, you know, and Dave would be facing the front, and I'd usually be facing the back and just kicking back, and then Ray would be over there on the couch. And, you know, we just would hang, you know, watch a movie or something, drink a little bit, you know, and then crash out. But and that was another, I would say some of my favorite moments with Dave would be sometimes late at night and we got a good buzz going and everyone's crashed out, and somehow me and Dave were the last two guys sitting there. And that's when Dave would talk like a different, like more personal, you know.
Yeah.
It was like we'd have more in-depth conversations about different kinds of stuff. And so those are the best moments, because I think that the minute there's a few people around, he does a different personality that's, you know, he doesn't open up as much. He closes down a little bit and becomes Dave the boss, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the coolest, where I was like, this is a cool guy. I wish my friends could see this Dave. Because a lot of the stuff,
he's a smart guy.
yeah, a lot of the stuff that to me was the greatest stuff about him, he would keep hidden. And like the fact that he's just reading he's always got many books going at the same time, and he's always learning stuff. And then when he shows up at a thing, he's got 3 playmates with him and a midget, like, and this is what they want to see. And I'm like, man, nowadays people want to see you reading books. And
yeah, right.
learn EMT, like because of the reality shows, people like to see what people are really like. And I think that Dave's character is a fun party guy, but his real self is 10 times cooler. And I think people respect that so much, but he's almost like, when he learned how to fly a helicopter, or especially when he learned how to become an EMT. He became an EMT while I knew him, and donated his entire paycheck to the New York police department or fire department. And he would be in the ambulance. He did the defibrillator on people. He carried people downstairs from a building. He's done some gnarly stuff. And if Bon Jovi had done that, there would probably been a whole TV show built around it.
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
Dave just did it in secret. I'm thinking, man, if people could see this side of Dave, they would just be blown away.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Can you imagine someone being half in and out of lucidity, and you were and you're in the ambulance getting mouth to mouth from David Lee Roth. You'd think, oh, I'm dreaming this. I must be stuffed.
Yeah. Well, part of the thing that when Dave, obviously he being Dave, he said, put me in the roughest neighborhood you got. Yeah. And so he basically was in areas where no one even knew who the hell David Lee Roth was.
Yeah, sure.
He said he was recognized twice.
Yeah, that whole time. Out of hundreds of calls, he only got recognized 2 times.
Wow. Brian, when's the last time you actually had any interaction with Dave? Has it been a long time?
Yeah, it's been a while since, because the last time Van Halen came to Austin, man, it might have been 5 years ago, and I didn't even talk to him that day because he got mad at that show and just left afterwards. So it was probably Houston a couple of years before that, probably 2014 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, so since I actually hung out with him and talked to him. And I haven't had his number for years. His phone number changes every 6 months, so I'm 10 phone numbers away from his number now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it seemed like you had a pretty good rapport with him. Out of maybe all the guys in the band, you seem like you. You knew how to handle him. You knew his different moods and maybe you got to know him pretty well. I guess, right?
That's true, and that's why I knew while I was playing with him. I remember hoping it lasted 3 years when I got the gig. I was going, man, if this lasts for 3 years, that'll be a good run,
Yeah.
And it turned into over 6 years. And I still remember that once I got to know him, the first maybe 2 years when I knew him pretty well, I remember telling my wife, I go, I have this feeling that once we play our last show together, I'll never talk to him again. And I had seen how he is. Right. Dave is he only deals with who he's got to deal with right now. He's got a circle of people that are, this is my assistant, this is my manager, this is this, and that's who he deals with. He doesn't really call old buddies and doesn't hang out with that kind of even Niels Lozauer. He knows Niels Lozauer.
Yeah.
He was photographing those guys since 77 or 76, way back. Yeah. He's done it, and he would be always the guy Dave would call for photo shoots. He's the only guy that I ever saw that Dave would call up and go "Hey Neil, we're gonna meet up in about an hour," and Neil be like, "Dude, you give me an hour's notice? Fuck off!" Click. They were close enough to where Neil would, but even Neil told me that when Van Halen played the Hollywood Bowl, Dave didn't even hook him up, and he ended up getting hooked up by Eddie's accountant, who was also Neil's accountant. And I said, "Oh, I can get you a backstage pass." And Neil's like, "No, man." He goes, "If Dave doesn't give me a pass, I ain't going backstage." And he had the same kind of feeling, "Wow, man, Dave's not even." And I used to think that of anybody in the world, Lozauer was the one guy Dave would still call on the phone.
You would think. Yeah.
He's really got no real bros, that
kind of a loner, huh?
Very much so. Yeah, he's it's I'll take karate. He takes his karate lessons. He's got the sword thing he does. Then he went to Japan and learned how to do Japanese calligraphy. He's always learning languages. He took chess lessons from a Russian chess master.
Wow.
I used to say if Dave was going to take surf lessons, he'd call Kelly Slater. Right. He's that guy who could call. But so that's his thing. It's just in fact, he said one thing on the air one time when we were on the radio. He goes, I'm an enigma, and I only talk to other enigmas. Yeah, and I guess that's part of the reason he don't talk to anybody. It's such a few. It's a very small group of people that they got to be like the top of something,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Brian. Our good friend in the chat, Christopher Live Sawa, wants to know if you've ever met Dave's dog, Russell.
No, that's after my time. I haven't seen Dave since that dog's hideous now or the past few years. Yeah, no, I've never met the dog, but I met no, I don't say this, but I met Dave's dad and I met his sisters.
Very cool.
It's funny you pull the curtain back a little bit and you describe Dave, and then you put him in with those guys in Van Halen. Like you're saying, you like the fact that he was the boss. Dave was the guy, but when he was in a situation where he wasn't the boss and they really didn't give a shit, like probably
that's why they clash. Probably it's like
you can see like it was probably constant. I would imagine everybody but Michael Anthony, probably Alex and Eddie probably would tag team. I'm sure they'd stick together. I guess, right?
I'm pretty sure from what I know from certain people that were there on the Van Halen tours, that they really don't. They just show up at the last minute. I mean, they don't. Because Dave sees them on stage, and that's even when I was playing with them. That's how he normally rolled, anyways. I mean, if we're on at 9 o'clock, he's rolling in the building at 4:45, if not 5
It's the impression I got when they hired Irving Azoff, because he's like known for like with the Eagles making things work. So I figure you heard Dave never showed up for sound checks with Van Halen. It was basically they probably 5 minutes before the show they shook hands, went on the stage, pretended they liked each other for 2 hours, and then they saw him the next night 5 minutes before the show in the next city, shook hands, went on, that was it.
Except for the shaking hand part is probably not true.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Hey, hi, how you doing? Right.
The funniest thing I've told this story before, but one of the funniest ones was when we got Jimmy DeGrasso in the band, the Jimmy DeGrasso from Megadeth, and so he joins the band, and we did a bunch of rehearsals with him, and of course Dave only pops into rehearsal like once a week just to check on a few things and then leaves. There's hardly any rehearsal with him, so we're rehearsing with Jimmy. But then there was a couple of months before the first show, so no one sees each other during that time. Well, me and Ray usually do because we did other gigs together and stuff, but we don't see Dave. Jimmy's up Northern California, so we don't see each other till we fly into Chicago for our first show or wherever it was. So we fly into the first show, but of course we fly in the day before, and still nobody sees Dave. And then it's day of show, and Jimmy is kind of looking around like, am I ever going to see Dave? It's been 5 months, since he's seen Dave, and we're on in 30 minutes, and he's kind of tripping out. And then it's just showtime. I mean, I don't even know if anyone saw him till we were on stage going.
Oh, Lord.
And so we're playing the show, and then after and we play a few songs, and then in the middle of "You Really Got Me," we kind of break it down. And Dave goes, "Give it up for our lead guitar, Mr. Brian." And on the bass guitar, we got James Lomenzo. Dave walks over to me and he whispers in my ear and he goes, "What's the drummer's name?" and I go, "Jimmy DeGrasso," and he goes, "Yeah, man, we got Jimmy DeGrasso on the drums."
Oh, yeah.
And then after the show,
Priceless.
after the show, Jimmy comes up to me and goes, "He forgot my name, didn't he?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I can tell."
That is
Wow.
Yeah, Dave played it off. Dave played it off on stage like he was talking to me about some chick or something, like,
Yeah.
"What's the drummer's name?"
man.
So he didn't make it look obvious, but yeah, I'm just going. That just shows to show you how he didn't even know the drummer's name.
That's classic.
Wow.
Oh, Lord.
fantastic.
Classic. Wow.
Fantastic.
Good Lord, man.
These are fun now. I got to talk to Jimmy about that one, man. I got to give him a call. He's a great guy. He forgot my name, didn't he?
I
Yeah. Well, you know what?
can't even work the mouse.
Yeah, it was probably out of all your years of playing, that was probably a period that it sticks out in your mind, maybe a little more than a lot of the other ones, right?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm kind of bummed that I don't remember more. And this is kind of before the days of everybody having cell phone cameras.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff that you know, like they could have been so fun. And then another thing that I trip out on about is that, you know, all those Buddy Rich tapes, you know, the tour bus tapes of Buddy Rich.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone had balls back then, we would have some fucking tapes of Dave. It would have put those to shame. And but nobody probably was. Everyone was too scared to go in wired. It'd be like the Sopranos, you know. You go, "What are you wearing a wire?" Yeah, for sure you'd be fired for sure. I'm sure.
Yeah,
right. But man, some of the yelling at was kind of funny. You know, it is what it is, man. I play for free and I get paid to get yelled at.
Excellent.
But I'm sure along the way there were some unbelievably awesome gigs, you know, the nights that really shined in true David Lee Roth style.
I would say before the first show even happened, I already had a bunch of great moments with Dave, just hanging out, because once in a while he would come into a rehearsal and we'd all sit on the floor and he would he'd just pull out his ghetto blaster and he'd have his big old bags of CDs and a big book, you know, and he would just be sitting there, you know, with a cigarette in his mouth, you know, bottle of Jack next to him. And we're on the floor, you know, just sitting on the floor Indian style, you know, and he's, you know, digging through the CDs. Like I felt like we were like just hanging out at our friend's house when we were 16. You know, just sitting on the floor, you know, smoking a cigarette, and sometimes he's puffing a joint sometimes. And he had a chain with a lighter duct tape to it. So he had a lighter hanging by a duct tape on by a chain. And it was just it was so funny. It was like you're just hanging out with your neighborhood stoner. and then he would just
got a necklace with a lighter on.
And he put in all this cool music, you know, a lot of stuff that he really had a collection of music from, you know, the 60s and the 50s, and he liked doo-wop and boogie woogie and funk and soul. And so he would just be popping in this music, and we got a little buzz going. We're passing around a bottle, and I just was going like, man, I wish my friends could see this. This is the coolest hang on earth. You know, like that, just like. And what was really funny would be that Dave would have a cigarette and he'd be like looking around for a lighter, and he's got it hanging on his neck. And the assistant guy would be pulling out the lighter. You know, the lighters be showing up, and it's like having glasses on your head. You know, you can't find them. It'd be so funny.
So cool, dude.
Those are great moments. Hilarious. And that's why I'm bummed that I don't remember that we never really taped stuff back then, because there's probably a million things I forgot about, you know.
Yeah, I bet you like Lomenzo and Ray Luzier, all those guys probably have little stories.
Dude,
one day you guys get together, you probably sit and laugh about this stuff for hours.
Yeah, you know? Ray has great stories, and he does a great David Lee Roth impersonation. So when he tells the story, it's hilarious. Ray. Here, in fact, one time when we did the Howard Stern, so when we finished the Salmon Dave tour, we're in New York City. We were pretty much hubbing out of New York for the last week of the shows, because we were out. We basically would stay at this W hotel. It became our office. Matt says, "I'm going to change a Diamond David Lee Roth Enterprises phone number, the message when people called. It says, 'Hi, you've reached Diamond David Lee Roth. You can find us at the bar at the W on 79th Street in Lexington.'" That's the office. And so we were finishing the tour, and we were actually heading up to we're going to JFK to fly home. Me, James, and Ray are just together, and we're actually going through security at the airport, and I get a phone call from someone, Sensio or Soup, one of Dave's guys. "You guys, are you on the plane yet?" "No, don't get on the plane." "What's up?" "We're doing Howard Stern show tomorrow. Everyone come back." So I go, "You guys, stop everything. Grab your bags. Let's go. We're going back to the city."
Wow.
So we go back to the city. And then, and what's funny is we had the night before was our last night in New York. So we had all gone to this place called Mama Mexico and just ate all this Mexican food. And they would, the owner of the bar of this restaurant, they would stop, and there would be a mariachi band playing tequila. And then the guy would walk around and pull your head back and just pour tequila down your throat. They'd go around your table, and we were just getting hammered at this place. And then the next day we're flying home, and now it's like we're all going back. So now tomorrow we're going to go on Howard Stern show. So we went back to that Mama Mexico place again and got hammered. So the next day when we went to the Howard Stern show, we had to be there like 5:30 in the morning.
Oh my
We're
god!
all
Wow.
So we were probably just finished partying like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
So we get to the Stern show and we're in the hallway, and Dave comes walking in, and we're talking, and something's happening, and then Dave walks away, and then the Matt Sensio comes up to me and he gives me like a piece of gum or something. He said that Dave goes, "Somebody get the guitar player a breath mint." I was like,
That's awesome.
Brother. Yeah, somebody get the guitar player a breath mint. Because I see on Dave, he didn't like it. So, and then we, oh God, then we did the Howard Stern, played on the Howard Stern show. And same thing. And now we're doing like acoustic shit, except for none of us could sing.
Oh,
We all lost our voices. It was all cracking and everything.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool.
That must have been great. Wow.
Cool.
Hey Brian, there's another question in the chat from Holly. She was asking if I remember right, if you ever saw David Lee Roth's like sort of outfit closet or any of his kind of.
Not only did I see that, I got a funny story. This is another great story. We were doing a photo shoot at Dave's house.
Yeah.
And his house is really weird. I mean, it's a lot of big rooms that don't have anything in it. Like he's got his Mojo Dojo. He's got a big dojo with a wooden floor and the swords on the wall. It's just a giant empty room to do karate in. And then his kitchen, I still remember, I don't know if I did look in the fridge. I think I did. I mean, the kitchen doesn't have much, no real silverware or plates or anything. And then I think I opened the fridge and there's, maybe one bottle of water and just a big empty fridge. Just like he just orders in food and, there's nothing going on in the house. So we're doing a photo shoot and we're in one of the rooms. And in this room, it has the big rack. You know, there's like the rolling rack of clothes, the thing you're up.
Yeah.
It's got all his stage clothes, like 2 big racks of clothes. And then at some point, Dave took off with somebody. They were going to drive him somewhere to get food or do something. And while Dave was gone, we were like looking through his stage costumes and stuff, and seeing a bunch of different ones. And we were going like, we should all put on an outfit of his. And when he comes back, I'll be wearing his clothes. like he caught us. But we didn't do it, of course, but we thought, man, we were talking about how funny that'd be for him to catch us wearing his clothes and shit.
You're fired.
Be priceless.
So in those days, Brian, how many costume changes a gig did Dave do?
Oh, he didn't really do costume changes. He had a bunch of outfits and they were usually color matched. Like his pants would be purple and black diamonds. Then he'd have like a purple shirt. And then he'd have a silver one with silver and gold one. And once in a while he'd mix match a couple, or sometimes he'd put on another shirt over it. Then later on, we started doing this thing where he wanted me to wear the Western shirts, with the yoke kind of thing, And we did that for a while where he had like a cowboy shirt, but he would usually just put on an outfit and wear it and take his shirt off maybe, but he wasn't into doing a bunch of costume changes.
Hey, when he cut his hair for the first time, he was with you, wasn't he?
Yep. And he pretty much went to brown too when he did it.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like the beginning of the new
bleached hair to brown.
Yeah, it was like
right.
the new season, we're getting ready to gear up for the touring, and he comes in, shows up at the rehearsal, and he's got short brown hair. We're like, whoa, hey man, what's up? Cut your hair.
Wow, it was the end of an age, man.
Yeah.
So right after the Sam and Dave tour, you guys went right back out on the road.
No, we didn't. We got home at the end of it was like in September, and we were done for the year. We didn't go back out till next spring.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually Ray and I would go back to our regular LA gigs. We did a lot of gigs together, and we would just do that, in between tours and stuff.
You guys came back that next run to the South here in Charlotte, and I did not go, but yeah. But that Charlotte show is up on YouTube, and
I think I've seen that. It's somebody filmed the screen from really far away, right?
Well, no, it's a good one. A couple others.
Yeah, but if you look at it, the person actually set up a camera on a tripod and then aimed it at the jumbotron screen, so they're getting the same footage as for all the camera angles and all the close-ups, but they filmed the screen.
I didn't realize that.
Because a couple times you'll actually see like a head poke up. It looks to me like they're on the grass outside of the thing. Because I really like the way it looked, because there's a certain look when they're filming the screen that has kind of a vintage look to it. And I know
that was
the
at the
ones that are
amphitheater.
direct from the videotapes, they have a different look to them. And I know that Charlotte show, I liked it. I liked the way it looked because of that. But there's a few that are up that I don't know if it's because of me, but because I had about 6 of the shows on video from the pro camera stuff, and I gave to my dad, and he put like 2 or 3 of them up. So if you look on YouTube and type in David Lee Roth 2002, if anyone's that say Mighty JLY, that's my dad, Joe Lee Young. That's his YouTube channel, Mighty JLY, and he's got a couple of videos up there of whole shows.
Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
nice. Yeah, it is a lot of them up there.
I wish now that I'd gotten more, because I would ask the guys, I'd say, hey, can I get a copy of the show from last night? Oh, yeah, they'd give me a copy on videotape, and then we'd go watch it on the bus. But I only did that like 4 or 5 times, and I'm looking back now and go, man, I should have got every one.
No kidding.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
I didn't want to be a bug. I guess I didn't want to be a bother to them.
Sure.
I wish I was a bother.
Yeah.
So going back, who replaced you in the Atomic Punks?
Let me think now. Was that Russ? Russ Parrish, who was also in Steel Panther. He was, while I was in the Punks, he actually played bass once in a while for us, because we had a problem with one of our bass players wouldn't get on an airplane, and the other. So we had a couple different guys that had to play all the shows, and Russ did it for a while. And then when I left, he's the guy who replaced me. He did it for a couple of years. Then they got that guy Lance, who's been in the band now for about over 10 years, probably. Lance Turner.
Wow.
But yeah, Russ did it for a little while.
Cool.
Okay.
I think Russ and Ralph left at the same time to do that Steel Panther thing.
Excuse me.
How was it working with Michael Starr?
So fun. When we would do the disco gig, he would wear the silk shirt, and the sunglasses, and he had the John Travolta wig on. And he would do this fucking his character was this fucking this kind of guy, and he'd say,
Excellent.
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday, what's your fucking name, happy birthday, whatever. He was so funny, and he would cuss so much on stage. His whole shtick was just this whatever Italian mafioso dirty guy, and everyone loved his character. And he would, man, people used to heckle him because they knew that he would rip them up really good. They'd bring their friends and go, watch this, hey, you suck, and then he'd go. they just do that to get him to, they rile him up, and he was so funny. He was better than almost every comedian I've ever seen on stage.
That's awesome.
Ralph could win them. And one time we're playing a show, and Ralph's doing his thing, talking his shit. It's a place we never played before. It was also in San Diego. And during the show, some guy comes running up on the stage and starts talking to Ralph into his ear right while we're on stage in between songs, and then runs off the stage. And Ralph goes like this. Yeah, that was a fucking. He goes, hey, that was the owner of the club. He told me to quit swearing so much. Fuck him. Oh my God, we're so fired. And so what's funny, after the show, the guy came up and said, Ralph, man, come on, do your dirty stuff. And that's how Ralph shticked that. How great his shtick is. That's what he came up with at that second. He goes, yeah, that was the owner of the club. He told me to quit swearing. Fuck him.
Oh,
that's the genius of Ralph. He's just that shit. And me and the drummer, meanwhile, are going, oh my God, we're believing it.
Wow. Well, he's such a good singer, and his covers he did Roth really well. He did all of Roth's catalogs so good.
He definitely channeled David Lee Roth to the point where he would say stuff on stage that Dave never. He had some of Dave's lines, but he would make up his own lines, and you go, yeah, Dave would have said that. Like he could channel the personality of Dave, and it was like stuff that Dave would have said. That's how into that character he could get.
Very cool.
Were you at the place the night that him, Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, and Mike Starr standing on standby almost did that gig?
I wasn't there. No, I think I was already out here in Texas when that was going on. When they almost did the Eat 'em and Smile lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard all about that. Brett Tuggle, I think, was there. The whole Eat 'em and Smile band.
Yeah, almost happened. Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, I got a question from Jimmy Ray Hawkins in the chat there. Just wondering if any of your other family members are musos.
They all are. My whole family's music. It goes back.
Oh, cool.
My grandfather played trumpet and violin, and my whole family loved music. And then, oh, hey, cool. And then my dad played classical guitar, and my mom played piano. And I'm the oldest, and I play guitar. My next brother's Tim. He plays bass, and he's been playing professionally for years and years. And then my brother Mike, he's a scientist, but he plays keyboards and bass and drums and stuff, but he never did it like professionally. And then my next brother is Rich. He's an amazing drummer and really good. He has like a grand piano and plays all this classical stuff. But he played. He did a lot of session work and stuff. He played with like the Neville Brothers back in the day, and he did a session with Hiram Bullock back in the day. And he did a bunch of Christian rock records with different bands. And he also played with a guy named Dino who had a song called Romeo that was kind of like a hip hop type thing. And he played on Arsenio Hall show and stuff back. So they never really got huge, but they toured. I think they were on tour with New Kids on the Block as the opening band. And then my youngest brother is Chris, the one that was 11 at the S Festival. And he rips Van Halen stuff on guitar. And in fact, a few of the licks I do when I play with he showed me the right way to play a couple that I was doing wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's handy to have in the family, isn't it?
Yeah, and I go, oh wow, I go, okay, yeah, that's definitely right. Mine was I wasn't doing right. And then pretty good at flamenco too. He plays flamenco guitar pretty well.
Very cool.
So,
I bet all these years later, he's glad at age 11 that you took him to the US Festival.
If he remembers it, I don't even know. So, but he's so anyways, so my whole family, we all loved music. It was always going nonstop in my house. I mean, since I was a baby, it was like my dad and mom were Elvis and the Beatles and Little Richard and Simon and Garfunkel and Segovia. My dad would listen to Segovia.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, by the time I was 5, in fact, my mom played piano every day. So when I was in her womb, I was 2 feet away from a piano going all the time, and she was teaching lessons and playing organ in the church and playing piano. So by the time I was born, I was already had all this classical music in my brain, in my formation.
Very
cool. So we were like, to me, when I was like, by the time I was 5, I don't think there was anything more important than music. I mean, we loved the Beatles so much. It was the greatest thing ever. And we loved Batman on TV, and we loved all those fun shows, but we were always super, super into music, man. We'd play my dad's Elvis records, the 45s, and we'd bounce up and down on the bed and go, New Seattle to the Little Richard. And we just jammed nonstop. And then I started playing trumpet in the school band when I was in 4th grade and 5th. And it's funny though, I love listening to music. But I never really thought about playing it. And I loved the Beatles and I loved Elvis, but it wasn't until I heard Kiss that I I want to play guitar.
Yeah,
then I said, I want to do that. That looks so badass. So it was really so I'd already loved music. It's funny, I just never thought about playing it till I heard Kiss. Then I was about 11 or 12. And that was when I said, I just think that they look so cool, and it aged with that Les Paul, the smoke coming out of it. I go, man, that is the coolest thing there is.
Sure.
Yeah, Kiss is like the gateway drug for
everybody I know is my age. Paul Gilbert, fucking Bumblefoot, Ron Thal, all these guys that are just graduate shredder guitar players were all like, Kiss, man.
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah.
You're 55 years old, between 55 and 60.
Yeah. So it starts.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of the younger people like Flash, I'm like, oh man, I was way
Bridge to Van Halen.
Yeah.
That's right.
For real. Definitely was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, I got
Tony's a Kiss kid.
Tony, you want to do that trivia question? Throw it out there.
I guess so. I'm told it's not hard enough.
Trivia question should be something that Brian has said during this chat, so no one can Google it.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah. No.
Do you know the music?
We've made sure of that already, dude.
Excellent.
All right. So get ready to type. We got fair warning passes. One for you tonight if you are the first one in with the correct answer. And to in the description is a email or a email address. Email me your name and address, and I'll mail that pass out tomorrow. Yeah, it's a couple lines down in the description. All right,
Somebody,
so
real quickly, I'm looking at the chat thing. Somebody said if you type in David Lee Roth Dangerous Curves, there's all kinds of stuff. But I played on what's called Sammy Hagar Dangerous Curves. That's what I told them to look up. That was Sammy Hagar singing a song called Dangerous Curves.
Gotcha. Thanks, Brian.
all right,
Gotcha.
so get ready to type. Good luck.
Good luck, you guys.
For Fair Warning Pass tonight. What was the only song from Van Halen's first album that was written while they were in the studio?
I have my guess. I don't even know.
Don't say it.
I don't even know.
Right there.
That was my guess.
Yeah.
Right there.
Holly, you rock.
Holly's
Right behind her.
How many
Right
people
there.
think that was kind of borrowed from Christine 16?
Oh,
Never
Eddie
thought of
played
it.
on the demo of Christine
Interesting.
16.
Yeah.
Da-dum, 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 da-dum,
Never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that same
Interesting.
da-dum, da-dum, ba-dum, and it's really weird that Eddie and Alex played on the demo for Christine 16.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it is. Yeah, there you have it.
So they definitely had that. And here's another weird thing. Tone Loc sampled Jamie's Crying for one of his songs and Christine 16 for another.
Yeah,
one.
that's true too.
Oh,
Wow.
really? Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's from
he
Christine
obviously
16.
liked that beat.
Down.
Yeah, and then Van Halen was rah, rah, the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Jamie's Crying is that, yeah. So Holly Lewis,
Excellent, Holly.
yeah,
You rock.
congratulations.
You rock, Holly.
Yes.
Here's some Jamie's Crying trivia that Dave told me, so I hope it's accurate that what he said. He said that he was having trouble singing that song. He was in the studio, and he said he went out and he smoked a joint in the parking lot and came back in and nailed it in one take. That's from
Love
David's
it.
mouth. That's what he told me. So
Yeah.
hope
Love it.
that
I
sounds
also
good.
heard that Alex always hated that song. Hated
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I guess maybe you didn't like the drum beat, you know. that Tone Loc loved so much, you know.
That's it.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Holly.
both of you, I tell you what, I'm going to send you both one. You know, I wasn't going by spelling, but I am certainly happy to send you one. Email me your name and address, and I'll mail you a Fair Warning Pass out tomorrow. Yes.
Very cool.
You're a gentleman,
send you
Tony.
both
It's a
one.
Very
gentleman's
cool.
act. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for being
Very
here,
cool.
and sure,
Indeed.
no problem.
Oh, there it is. Yep, that's the song.
What is?
Yeah.
That's it.
There you go.
Looking very sexy there, Sammy.
And the song sounds similar to "I Can't Drive 55."
Oh, okay.
If you listen to it, you'll go, it's very
Nice
similar.
Trans Am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean, yeah, anyway.
Brian, my God, man. What a life, brother.
Yeah.
You got to spend all this time with Dave doing both catalogs from Eddie, Steve Vai.
Yep. Fun
Just a
stuff.
handful of guys in the world who can even say that. Thank you so very much for coming on here. This
Sure.
is
I
Yeah,
had a
dude.
great time. You guys are awesome to hang out with.
This
man.
has been
Brian,
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Brian, next time you got to come on and talk about guitars and amps.
Sure, that'd be
Well,
great.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
And Haas, yeah.
Do you guys only do this on Wednesdays?
Yes.
Because
Yep.
I have a steady Wednesday gig, and the only reason I'm able to tonight because we just had finished a 17-year residency at a club that we were at every Wednesday for 17 years.
Wow.
Before I was even in the band, and we just left it. Last week was we decided to move to another place, so we aren't starting the other show till the 30th. But once we start that, I'll be playing every Wednesday again. And but I'm off next week. Then the week after that, I'm going to go be visiting my family, so I'll be out of town. But maybe if you want to do it next week, that'd be great. But once I start the residency, like I said, our last one lasted. I'm hoping this one we're taking a chance. It was kind of a little bit scary to leave a place you've been playing for that many years.
Yeah.
But it's kind of things have kind of changed, and COVID kind of helped mess it up a little bit for us. So we're just hoping that this new play and the new club is only a block and a half from the old one. They're both downtown, so people who are used to seeing us don't even have to park in a different parking lot. They can still go down and
convenient.
It's right around the corner. But
Nice.
it's a different vibe. The other place was a courtyard, kind of semi outdoors. This place with a no ceiling, so it was like the sky. This place has a ceiling, so it makes you feel a little more cramped in.
Right.
So we're a little nervous about making a move this big after having such a successful residency. It's the longest running residency in Austin, Texas, as far as I know. 17 years on a weekly gig for 17 years.
That's
amazing.
That's a long run right there. Good.
So if this new one, hopefully we didn't blow it.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
But so actually, I'm going to head out because we're going to, me and my band, we're going to meet up downtown in about an hour from now.
Cool.
We're going to go around after 11 o'clock, and we're kind of peek in on who took our place.
Oh,
Okay, good.
We're going to go see the new band is like one of those variety bands with 10 people.
wow.
Oh yeah, right.
A couple girls singers and that whole deal. So it's a very different thing than what we were doing. But so we just kind of want to go by and spy and hope they're not doing as good as we did.
Well,
Excellent.
you can tell us all about it next time we catch up.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
Brian,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Brian.
so very,
Yes,
very
thanks
much,
for
man.
being
Thanks,
here,
Oscar. So
Brian.
good to see you. And
Hey, we wish you health. You be well, my man. Be
thank you
well.
very much. Talk to you
Yeah,
guys later on.
everybody.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Really enjoyed that, Brian. It was great.
Brian Young, Gary. All right. Let's get back. All
And
right.
Simon, thank you as well.
Yes, as
You
always.
make this happen. Thank you so very much, bro.
Yes,
Of course,
Simon.
it's an honor to join you guys naturally. So yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
always nice to
Oh,
see you, brother.
great to see you. Yeah, and you're going to be busy too, and we'll be checking up on what you got coming up too. So
What's happening in your neck of the woods down there, Haas?
Down
Yeah.
here, I'm sort of at the moment doing, well, really three different things. I'm touring with an artist called Daryl Braithwaite, an Australian singer. So that's kind of my road gig stuff. And then the rest of the time I'm in the recording studio, sort of mixing and producing and songwriting. And then of course the third thing is getting ready for the Van Halen show in about 6 weeks. So that's it. That's kind of taken up all my time at the moment.
Are you going to record the Van Halen show?
Sure are,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can't
We're gonna
wait.
have a film crew and multi-track record it. So
Because
it's,
we're all the way over here and you're all the way over there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
thank you for looking out for us.
we've been
No,
waiting.
Very excited about that, brother.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this.
and I'm really
Absolutely.
humbled and flattered by all the interest from you guys too. So of course it wouldn't be right to not capture it so I can show you and that way that all these new friendships that I've made can feel a part of it.
Excellent.
You wouldn't believe how many people are like. I get people messaging me saying he's not using the Kemper on the Live Without a Nesdall on that clip, is he? What's he going to use live? I said no. I think that's the Plexi that you're actually using on that. Correct? Yeah, that's what I told him. I said I'd ask you.
No. It's a good question. Yeah. So on the Live Without a Net solo on my YouTube channel, which is using Neil's 5150 guitar, that's just the Plexi dimed and then a little bit of reverb added afterwards. But that's all that is. That's just straight. I wanted to make it as straight and as stripped down as Eddie would have done it, and also because the whole purpose of throwing that up there, and obviously I don't have a video of me playing it. I'll do that next. Is so people can hear Neil's guitar, and I didn't want too much stuff in the chain, getting in the way of that.
Right.
I want it to be guitar and amp, which of course, that's really mostly what Eddie was until he started doing the stuff with Sammy and the harmonizers and things it was that 80s production. That's just was the sound of the day, wasn't it? But prior to that, it was really, I mean, apart from some added reverb in the mixing and stuff, it was just a guitar and an amp, you know?
Yeah.
So that's all that is. And yes, to answer your question then, John, with the Van Halen gig that I'm doing, that's going to be the opposite of the rig that I used at the Melbourne Guitar Show, which I really just used for convenience. Right. And of course, at that time, I didn't know there'd be so much interest in it. You know, we were asked to do it a few months out. We did a handful of rehearsals and then just slapped it together. But this one, I'm doing the full plexi wet dry wet rig, so that's going to be very, very fun.
I can't wait to hear that, Simon.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for that.
When is that exactly, Simon?
So that is on Friday, the 15th of April is that show.
Everybody remember tax day here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Is it tax day for you guys?
That's right. That's how we'll remember.
Well, maybe we'll have to play
for the day, and then it'll be good later on.
You're the one silver lining, brother.
Well, maybe we'll have to throw in a cover and do Taxman in the encore just for you guys or something, you know?
Don't even remind us. Just play that Helen will do.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me, gentlemen. You know, just chatting with Brian is such a pleasure. He's got so many amazing stories.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. He's a nice, laid back guy. He really is. You can just tell he's a really genuinely a nice guy.
He's a very genuine, humble, sweet guy, as you can just tell. But even the fact that, I mean, I probably only hung out with Brian 2 or 3 times, and in total, and that would be way back then in the late 90s, early 2000s. And yet, you know, we've kept in touch like all these years, and that goes to show what kind of a sweet sort of guy he is, you know?
Yeah, without a doubt. You can just tell. You're absolutely right. You can tell.
Standing.
A cool cat.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
Wonderful dance.
Yeah. So Simon, we have other news to tell them about other stuff that's happening this weekend too.
Well, that's exactly right. That's going to be fun. You guys are roping me back in for another one. Is that right?
We are, brother.
What we basically did tonight, we're going to do to you on Saturday. So,
man.
I'm only joking. Not roping me in at all. This is going to be heaps of fun. And this came about, didn't it? Just because Tony and I discovered that we both have a whole bunch of Paul Gilbert picks, and now I've got a real special one. Should we tell him, Tony, what it is, or should we leave it as a surprise?
Let's leave it as a surprise. That is super ultra cool and rare and
very rare. And
Saturday.
And just to wet people's whistle a little bit and their appetites, this is I happen to be really good friends with the front of house engineer he's done Dream Theater and Sammy Hagar, but he also did Mr. Big for a while. And he would just grab whatever was left lying around on the stage or on top of amps and stuff. And so all the picks that I have, I actually used by Paul on a gig, you know. And this one in particular that we're talking about, well, let's just say it's more than one pick. I'll just say that.
Yeah, Paul Gilbert's famous for kind of something.
He's famous for using more than one pick, so
cool.
So we'll show that off on Saturday. That'll be heaps of fun.
Can't wait. My goodness.
And if anyone was ever curious about the construction of it and how he actually did it, then I can take it apart and show everyone the nuts and bolts, so to speak.
Right on.
That is some cool stuff, man. Thank you so much, Simon.
Saturday, 9 p.m.
My goodness, man.
Yeah, Saturday.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, guys, again.
Dude,
for
this has been so much fun. I'm in awe of all the stuff from the road that we learned. Oh my God.
Such great stories.
God.
Priceless.
And actually, I don't think Brian's capable. I mean, you can tell he's got so many stories tumbling around in his brain. He can't even decide which story to go to first, you know? So I think that's a, what's the expression? That's a well to be mined, you know?
It's funny because,
Yes.
like, when you ask him the question that Holly asked, he's like, "Oh, I got a great story about that." You know,
Yeah.
We have never heard. Goodness, yeah.
I mean, I so wish that they had you know, grown a pair and all come out in front of David Lee Roth wearing his outfits. I'm sure it would have ended badly. But it would have been funny.
Yeah, it would have been great.
What a story that would have been. They probably all would have got fired though, so I guess they did the right thing, you know. But
Probably.
Yeah.
And I tell you what.
Before I forget and get yelled at, I'm kidding, Sandra. Totally kidding. We here at Halenville, believe it or not, as fast as time flies when you're having fun, we are a year old this week.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
We are.
Hey, Tony, I just noticed I see Bent Tom is in the chat.
Where's
Is that
Tommy?
correct?
I didn't
Tommy,
see
we
that.
love you, brother. We miss you so
There he
much.
is, dude.
Hey,
Getting
Ben Tom,
better.
sending hugs, brother.
Keep getting better, Tom.
Absolutely.
Sending hugs.
Nice to see you, dude.
It's
Awesome
good
to see you, bro.
Tommy.
Yeah, awesome, Tom.
Get well, man.
Yeah, we'll see you soon,
Right
bro.
on, Tommy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah, dude. Great to hear from you, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Holly. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it was just last
Year.
month. It's been a whole year.
Happy birthday, guys. Yeah. Happy birthday, everyone. That's
Very cool.
awesome.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
we are a year old. And Tommy was on that first show.
First show.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
And many after. Wishing you well, Tommy. Love you, bro.
Get well, buddy.
Yeah, Tom.
Man.
Feel better.
Yeah. Well, guys, we are gonna wind it down, I guess, for the evening. Want to thank Sandra, who's got an extra window open, I hear. Yeah. Thank you, Sandra. Simon, dude, always great to see you, bro.
Right there, Simon. Right there, buddy.
Yes,
Pleasure, Charles. Pleasure, Tom. Pleasure, Sandra. Yeah, thanks for having me, as always. And thanks, everyone in the chat. I was trying to read the questions while Brian was talking.
You, bro. Right there, Simon. Right there, buddy.
Pleasure, Charles.
What's that?
She's got a window open, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah.
all good.
Anyway, Simon, yeah, it was as always. It's awesome to talk to you. Always enjoy talking to you, and when you're on, it's always a good show.
Saturday, buddy. Saturday.
We'll do it all again.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Right here.
Fantastic.
You be well, my man.
All right.
Yeah, well, you guys be well too. Have a good couple of days, and I'll catch up with you all Saturday night.
Take care.
Sounds
See
great.
you again, bro.
Simon, thanks. John, Charles,
Hosford, guys.
Sandra, everybody in the chat and watching on replay. Thanks so much. This has been so much fun. Any last words, Charles?
Hey, guys, just don't forget, here in Halenville, it doesn't matter whether you go north, south, east, or west. Every single road, straight to Van Halen, you guys.
Woo!
Be well. Have a great week. Hey, shout out to Lenny Lou. We want you to get better, sweetheart. We love you. Analog Kid, we love you too. You guys rock on. See you later.
Peace.